Yours good? Okay. We're call the meeting of the Biglake School Board to order. Show that all members are present. We'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Scales.
Second.
Second by Hedstrom. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do you have anything for the consent or for the open forum?
No, but Madam Chair, I would like to just reiterate to our community that if in fact somebody is interested in participating in open forum, I know there's a pop-up on the website that basically requires or asks that people get a hold of me on Wednesday so that we can plan. The whole reason behind that is so that we can ensure capacity and make sure we don't have too many people in the room at one time. So I do encourage people, if you have a topic to bring forward for the open forum, to get a hold of me by Wednesday before the board meeting, and I'll make sure we make a plan to where we can time that out so that we can maintain appropriate capacity levels.
Okay, on to the consent agenda, the previous minutes, claims and accounts in $1,371,303.38. And credit card report and personnel report. I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Scales,
Second.
second by Sixberry. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. On to donations. Looking for a motion to approve the donations.
So moved.
Moved by Nygaard,
Second.
second by Brown. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. On to the financial report.
Good evening, school board members. I kind of have a hodgepodge of information in tonight's financial report, but we'll start out with enrollment. I'll be going to the next slide. Thank you. So what I want to mention with enrollment is I wanted to give you a revised day one enrollment and just remind you, so last month I reported that we had 2,984, but actually after all enrollments were finalized, day one actually ended up at 2,973 because we were still finalizing and, trying to make sure, I would say track down students, but where they were at and whatnot. So 11 less than what I had reported last month. So day one enrollment was 2,973. And then our October 1st, so a month later, we actually did drop 10 more, 2,963. Main reason is we did have more students. They started out and then they decided to homeschool. We did, so under the drops, I give some details there. 50 more students decided to homeschool. 7 students moved and then 3 transferred to other districts, but we did have some adds. 17 ECSC. ECSC is early childhood special ed. Those students typically start later. They start later than day one. So those were added, during the month of September. And then we did have 9 transfer in from other districts, and 5 were first enrollment. So we not only we had some kids transfer out, but we did have some kids transfer in. So, the net effect is that we just had more students homeschool, which is the drop from day one in September to October 1st. The next slide shows graphically, I did include the graph this month, and it's not very pretty because our budgeted enrollment is that, I don't know if you can even see that yellow line way at the top. And as you know, we talked about this last month, we're off from budget. And then when you look at the actual bars, so the orange bar is actually 1819, so that was 2 years ago. The blue or teal, that was last year, and if you remember, we did have a nice increase in enrollment, and then the purple is this year. So,
Are all districts down across the state?
yes, Yes, absolutely. So, and I thank you for bringing that up. I was going to talk about that. Actually, well, I'll talk about that later, but the state, we're speculating that the State Department may hold schools harmless at 1920 levels. And I'll talk about that later, but I've gotten a couple emails that we had to do like a special MARS, it's called MARS, but it's a student reporting system submission. They wanted accurate October 1st numbers, because the speculation is they're comparing districts across the state of Minnesota. So, that would really be nice if they did that.
The conversation. Do you mind stopping
I
that?
think they're trying to get it online.
Okay, it's just really hard to pay attention.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
On that, if it's down the entire state, then you would assume that the state of Minnesota has extra funds
Exactly.
because they're not paying into the districts.
Exactly, because students across the state of Minnesota have decided to homeschool, so yes, you're right. There will be less students that the state will be paying for.
And I want to mention that today, or yesterday, I guess, Angie and I, and then I talked to Tim too, we had a really good conversation around how, parents who decide to move to homeschool could utilize our online system, the online school as their homeschool tool, and maybe looking at a way to reach out to those parents and have that conversation, and just so I think that's important for you to know too, that even though people are moving to homeschool, that might be something that we can revisit and see if there's a way that we can still, support them through one of our programs. So we had some nice conversation around that.
Yeah, potentially maybe get some students back, even if it is through Biglake Online.
Right, and support parents too, who maybe do not normally homeschool, right? This would give them all the tools.
And are we aggressively pursuing that? Are we having those conversations?
Typically, what happens is that when students do that, I know I would just I was CC'd on an email. We have the principals follow up with that whole piece, but what Amber and I talked about yesterday, or the assistant principals, I should say too, what we talked about is perhaps maybe myself and or a school board rep, maybe following up with these families and offering that type of situation. So we're working out a system. We just talked yesterday afternoon.
Yeah,
So
it just happened, just talked. I just wanted
Good.
you guys to know that it is a discussion.
It's in the
that's
works.
happening.
Okay, good,
Yeah,
good.
just so we're all on the same page.
Okay, that's all I have on enrollment, and so I'll just have you go on to the next slide there, John. Brief financial update. Still no budget revisions for this month. I don't want to do any budget revisions because I just would like to know what the state is going to be doing. I don't want to be I think we just need to wait. And see if they're going to hold us harmless at 1920 levels. And then audit field work, just wanted to give you an update. It's going to start next week. It'll probably go into the following week. The audit presentation will probably be in December versus November, but I'm going to give you an update in November. So you'll still have results at the November meeting, how 1920 ended.
Angie, on that,
Sure.
is our budgeted ADM, is that equal to 19 or 20? Did we budget up or down, or did we budget flat?
No, we're actually about 94 students off budget.
Right, but
Yeah.
if we got held harmless at 19.
Oh,
If
it'd
we
be
got held
19
harmless at 19 and 20.
Right.
What number is that?
Yeah, we'd be held flat, like you said.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep, that's why I was saying it'd be a good thing. So basically, that would eliminate that budget
So
gap.
we budgeted no enrollment increase or decrease last.
We just budgeted a slight increase, because of kindergarten, like 10 kids.
Okay.
Yeah, it was very
So-
small.
All right.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
one more question on that. So we kind of talked about each trimester. We wanted to kind of hold if that student was in the hybrid or the online, right? So with the loss of those students that you're referring to, is the line in the sand the end of the trimester where we would adjust? Or are we talking about adjusting prior to the end of the trimester with our budget?
well, if a student is hybrid, it doesn't matter if they're hybrid or they're
still
online.
No, but they
We get-
left. These left.
Oh, they left.
Yes.
Oh,
That's what I'm referring to, the ones that have left. That we
You
would.
mean to homeschool?
Yes.
Okay.
I guess I'd have to, I'm not sure what,
I think what he's asking is it's okay for them to come back before the trimester?
I gotta defer to the principals or Tim. I'm not
Yeah.
sure on that.
yes, we welcome them back whenever. We welcome them back in.
Right.
We're not saying no to anybody coming back if that's the question.
Yeah, I didn't know maybe I'm not asking it right, but, so the students that we're talking about have left.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't like move into online only, they've left.
Yeah,
And then
like-
the mechanism,
Yep.
obviously, that we're talking about is try to bring them back either to the hybrid or to the Biglake
Right.
online. Okay,
They have unenrolled from Big Lake schools.
Right.
okay,
Correct.
okay,
Yeah, that's
Okay.
maybe a better way to
Got
say
it.
it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, hybrid and online is still in Big Lake schools.
right, right,
So
okay.
they're enrolled elsewhere.
Right, but it say a student or a family decided they're gonna homeschool and then find out homeschool's not working out for them, we would welcome them back.
Of
Absolutely.
course,
Absolutely.
okay.
Yep.
I think, were you asking, like, once they're unenrolled, but say they're unenrolled for, 20 days and then come back, are you asking if the budget would be adjusted for those 20 days that they're
So
gone?
I'm ultimately getting there from a budgetary standpoint,
Yeah.
like when that update would happen based on when they come in. And I'm just trying to figure out from a timing perspective, when we would know if we need to adjust our budget. That's what I'm trying to ultimately get at.
Oh, I see what
So,
you're
so
saying.
when is our enrollment, like, that's the number we use?
Right.
It's usually that October, isn't it?
Well, and I think we wanna wait a couple months for that very reason.
Right.
And I also would like to
Know what I mean?
wait to see what's coming from the state.
Legislatively, correct.
Because if they do hold us at 1920 levels, we don't have that large gap.
Right.
So I guess I don't want to bring a formal budget revision forward. I'm just making you aware this is where we're at.
Can you go back to our screen that showed the enrollment then?
So you
And
kind of
our
know where
budget?
we're going with this questioning, right?
So so we're at, what, is that 3060 budgeted seated ADM?
Yeah, just below that. Mhm.
And the blue line, is
Oh, here, that
what we
makes
were last year, right?
Right.
We're not, even if they, hold us harmless to go to 2019, we should make some type of an adjustment, because we're gonna be obviously a long ways away, right?
So that's kind of where I'm trying to get at, is where that line is where we make an adjustment. And what I'm hearing Angie say is that we're not necessarily ready for that discussion, is what I'm
Correct.
hearing. Okay,
Correct. Yeah.
okay.
But
Yeah.
isn't the longer we wait, the harder it is to make adjustments down through the year or not?
No,
Oh, well, that's good then.
no,
Yeah.
no,
Okay.
no, not at all.
Okay.
Okay.
Because there's really not much we're gonna be able to really adjust. anyway.
Exactly.
Mid-year, you can't.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly, yeah. Okay, let's see. Okay, under financial update, there's one more thing I did want to review that's not on the slide that just actually was finalized today. If you recall, back in July, when the board approved the LTFM 10-year plan, we talked about at that time that we have to issue the second set of bonds for the middle school HVAC project. So we finalized when I say we, myself and TJ met with Ellers virtually today. And so in November, we're gonna start the process for issuing that second set of bonds. So what'll happen in November, at the November board meeting, is we'll present the revised plan to the board, and then focusing on, here's what we need for the second set of bonds. And then the board will consider a resolution of intent to issue bonds, basically for the second phase of that project. Because if you remember right, we were gonna do it over 3 years, but because they were able to get in early and start in like April and May, the contractor has said, we're gonna get this done in 2 years.
Right.
Yeah.
How's the bond market looking?
Interest rates are still low.
Not
And so what we decided today is because if you recall, I think the last 5 bonds, we issue in January, because that's a good time to bond. And so that's what we're targeting, is January 28th, which we assume will be the January board meeting. I just went for Thursday. And so then in November, so I went over that. So then in December, then Ellers will be here at the December board meeting to present the pre-sale report. And that's when we go over the details with the board. So I just wanted to bring that up and just let you know that's coming down the road. And then ultimately, our proceeds will be received in February, because it sounds like the contractor actually wants to get in and do some work actually over winter break. So we will need that money soon. Okay, so the next, this is just, we'll just skip over that. This hasn't changed from last month because there was no budget revisions. So let's go on to the next slide. Another brief update on COVID funding. So you've been hearing me talk, I think, the last 2 months, maybe 3 months, about these CRF funds. So I just wanted to point this out. This is how things change. They're changing daily. So initially, districts were told that we had to have 75% spent by November 13th, or we were gonna get money taken away. They changed that date to November 1st.
Oh.
But for us, we're fine. So as of Tuesday, I did another draw. We've spent 76% of our funds. So we are not in danger of having any money taken away. I did get an email this week that districts got allocated a little bit more money because if districts did not submit their applications by October 1st, they took it away. So that 766, 686 that I have on the slide, we actually got $230 more.
So not too many people didn't get that.
Right, right. I still can't for the life of me why someone wouldn't have done an
Like a
application,
school
but.
did
Yeah,
not
a school.
do it.
Yeah. Yeah, so our new total is 766,916. So I just want to let you know, we are fine. We spent 76%. I'm going to do another draw probably on Monday. We're fine. We will have it spent by the deadline.
And then, so if some student or some places get their money taken away, does that get divvied up again?
Yes, yeah. So, yeah, good point. So that November 13th deadline,
Nice.
so if they don't spend their 75%, it's getting taken away and redistributed again. So who knows? Maybe we'll get a little bit more
You'll get
money.
another $300.
Another $300.
Right.
Every penny counts.
Right, let's see, the CARES Act funding, that hasn't changed. Sherburne County, we did get 85,000. We have received that from Sherburne County. And then, I don't want to steal Alan's thunder, but Community Ed is applying for some more money, so I'll let him talk about that. So, hopefully help out the Community Ed fund. Okay. Switching gears again, food service update. I think many of you may have heard about this, that the USDA did allow for the continuation of free meals through June 30th. It only makes sense, and that's a good thing for our families. So they'll continue to receive the free breakfasts and lunches, but, and we talked about this last month, we still need families to apply for the application for meal benefits. Because it impacts our compensatory funding, and that funding is for our at-risk students. And our percentage this year, as of earlier this week, is 17.5%. Last year, we were at 25%. You know, if that number holds, I mean, we're gonna be down 310,000 in compensatory. But we did send out a communication to families just, I think it was yesterday, I believe.
Do we tell them that it's $300,000 toward the school? Do we literally tell them that?
I was just going to say, Madam Chair, if I may, Amber and I visited about this as well. We had
Right,
two
right.
topics, and another thing we did talk about is maybe taking a more aggressive approach with me maybe doing a video just completely around this and saying, like,
Right.
what are the impacts of just us knowing these numbers kind of thing. And I didn't even get a chance to share that with Ellen yet. But Ellen, next one of these upcoming videos, I'm on it. So
Yeah.
we'll make sure we go after that because, like you said, to understand that, you know, fill it out. Even if it's likely you maybe don't qualify, it doesn't matter.
We
Fill
just
it
want
out.
them to fill it out.
Just fill it out.
Yep.
Just fill it out.
Yep, I know the
For
community,
this reason.
Right.
right.
It could be costing the school
$300.
$310,000, which we've got to get it from somewhere.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
Right, that's why I said, like, we just have to send the message that it's not just about school lunches, it's about funding too, and that maybe it's not gonna impact your student right now, but it could next year or the year after, and so it's so important that people apply for this, even if they don't think it's super important.
Until I got on board, so. yeah.
Well, and people may not even realize they qualify, right? If you're on unemployment, you qualify. If you might be comfortable in your lifestyle, but your budget would allow you to qualify for this. So it would even give some extra relief for people who maybe don't even know they qualify. So it's worth trying.
Well, that, and I just want to mention, if family circumstances change, like, for example, you know, you lose your job, you can apply as many times
Yeah.
as you want. There's no limit. You know, so I always encourage, like, say we might get a call from a family that, you know, they're hurting, and the first thing we say is, well, have you sent a revised application? Because they can apply as many times as they want. And so the communication that did go out the other day, we actually included a direct link to the application, so.
Yeah, it'd be great, even when they get down to 0.
Yeah,
You'd say,
Yeah.
here you go, just so you know, you still can apply right now.
yep, they can apply and anytime. Unfortunately, it's just the cutoff for the compensatory funding is, I wanna say, middle of December, so
Mm.
really anything like in January on doesn't count, and then that's just a state deadline,
We'll make a
so.
push.
Yeah, we'll make a
Yeah.
good push, yeah.
Yeah.
I think if people knew that more, they would do that, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so then last is, that this is what I alluded to this earlier. I call them this legislative speculations, because we're hearing districts may, and of course I capitalize, may be held harmless in enrollment at 1920 levels, and we may be held harmless in compensatory funding. We don't know. We're just hearing that. In fact, I think I did hear in the special session last week, there was a legislature that introduced a bill. Do I have that right, Tim? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so I guess bottom line, contact your legislatures. So, but other than that, that is all I have for the financial report, unless there are any other questions. So just need the board to approve the financial report.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Hedstrom, second by Scales. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to the Biglake online attendance procedure.
Madam Chair, members of the board, while the assistant principals are walking up to the microphone, I just want to share with you that these ladies have been working, and the assistant principals have been working on attendance procedures. And with Biglake Online being new to us, we are learning as we go. And what is being presented before you is technically an addition, slight modification to the handbook, but we need to start somewhere with our attendance with our online students. So this provides a starting point with that. They'll be presenting the information, and obviously you can have an opportunity for some conversation. But meant to be an update, and we will just insert this and obviously communicate this out to those families and students involved in that program. But
Yeah, so part of the good evening, thanks for having us. Part of the conversation was started because we are having kids who are not engaging online. And so we work very closely with Sherburne County, and we have a Sherburne County social worker who's a truancy social worker who is assigned to Biglake schools. And so it was her strong recommendation that we have something added to the handbook, because the county really relies on the language that we have. So we started working as assistant principals on trying to develop some language, and it took a while to kind of get there, a little trial and error, but Katie's gonna read what our paragraph is that we would like to be added to the handbook.
Yeah, and you guys have it in front of you, but for our viewing audience at home, I will read it. So this is what we're proposing be added to our handbook. There's more detail that has been shared with families, and there's more detail that has been shared with teachers, but this is the handbook language we're proposing. So for Biglake Online, for those families who elected for our Biglake Online platform, 612 attendance will be defined as continuous active engagement with the learning process and making continuous progress in each course in which a student is enrolled. Teachers assigned to online learning will monitor the student's work completion and active engagement. 612 Biglake Online students need to be logged in for a minimum of 20 hours per week to be marked present and or must be considered on track for course completion in Edgenuity. Biglake Online K-5 students are expected to complete every assigned activity in their 4 core classes each day, and Biglake Online teachers will mark students absent who have shown no evidence of active engagement in making progress toward course completion. And some of that language in terms of active engagement, continuous progress comes from MDE guidance, and we're trying to make it, with Biglake Online attendance, it's really tricky, and we're trying to be flexible but also have some guidelines in place so that we can follow through with what we need to for attendance purposes. I'm going to make a couple notes specific to elementary, and then I'll let Angie speak to secondary because they're a little different, as you'll notice. So for the elementary portion, basically what you kind of need to know is that Edgenuity has assignments given to kids each day. It's paced out based on our school year calendar. So for the kids who are in there, when we say They're expected to complete every assigned activity in their 4 core classes. That's really clear to them, like they know, here's my things for the day I have to do, and our and our teachers help them through that and make sure they're getting those things done. So that's part of it, and so that language kind of comes from what Edgenuity looks like. But we are also very flexible, and so we look at assignments completed, but also time spent logged into Edgenuity. Because there are cases when a student might be working, but not submit their homework until the end of the week. Every family does it a little bit differently. So we really tried to make our language flexible, but also provide clear guidelines for teachers. There's a lot more detail to be shared, but that's kind of the gist for our families, just to know. We look at a few different, I guess you would call them data points to determine attendance, but it really comes down to teachers and families being in very close communication about what's going on with their online learning. So that's kind of the elementary perspective, and I'll let kind of talk about secondary.
Yeah, and ironically, I spent most of my day today doing this online attendance in Edgenuity, and so kind of like Katie said, within the program, we can pull up a student, we can see the courses that they're enrolled in, we can see how much time they've logged in, and not only can we see how much time they logged in, but it also will tell us how much inactivity. So let's say, Johnny's logged in for 3 hours, but it'll say for 2 hours of that there was no activity. So they can log in, but unless they're actually engaged, it will tell us that the amount of time that there was inactivity. And it gives us kind of like the week by week snapshot. So I can see this week they were logged in for a total of 3.5 hours. I can see then the following week they were logged in for a total of 6, whatever. And so part of that is seeing how much time they're logged in, but also we can see how much work completion. So Edgenuity kind of gives on track or on target for how much time they'll need to be able to put into each course, their work completion, and then targeted to be done by the end of the trimester. And it's nice because it's color coordinated. So I can take a real quick snapshot, look at their classes and see, because if they're in the red, that means they're not on track. If they're, I think it's green, they're on track, and if it's blue, they're in ahead. So the other part with our online kiddos is that they could work, they might just spend 8 hours on a Saturday on all their classes. As long as they're on track and making progress, and we can see that they're logged in and having active engagement, then they're not going to be marked absent. So it's been kind of a learning process as everything this year, but I can run, and it gives me an opportunity to run a report. So today what I started with is I can run a report and say who hasn't logged in since 10/16. So then I can see, okay, who hasn't logged in this week? So then that gives me a list to start at, and then I start looking at those kids, and then from there kind of determining who needs, an email sent home as a kind of a reminder with parents on those emails as well. So the high school kids, because they have to be minimally enrolled in 6 classes, they can have an online study hall. They have to be showing progress. So we have some students who might be doing really well in 3 or 4 of their classes, but they're just not getting into their math class, or they're just not getting into their history class. Then we can say we have certain teachers who are subject specific, and so those teachers can offer support. We also have every online kid has a homeroom advisor that's assigned to them, and those advisors are doing Zoom check-ins with those kids weekly as well.
What about students who are part-time online?
Great question.
For hours.
Kind
have
of
one
the
of
same
those.
thing. So what I'm kind of learning about the Edgenuity as well. So we have some of the kids that are doing Biglake full-time online. We have some kids who might be PSEO, but they're taking an online history class or an online math class. And then we have some kids who are in the system because they're doing it for credit recovery. And so they might have have an open account and they're just doing something.
Yeah, my son's doing Right Tech and Biglake online.
Yeah. So with the Edgenuity, when I run the report, it actually tells me how many courses they're enrolled in. So if I see that Johnny's just enrolled in 1 class, then I just pull up their schedule in Infinite Campus. and see, okay, they're just taking this one class, but I can still see whether or not they're making progress. So they wouldn't necessarily go to truancy for not checking into one class, but I would still send a gentle reminder
Right.
saying, looks like you haven't logged in for a
But it
little
wouldn't be
bit.
necessarily that they'd be a minimum of 20 hours then.
Yeah, so that's for kids who are enrolled in the Biglake online platform as their,
Yeah.
programming, yeah. But yep, there are some kids that might just take 1 or 2 classes. So we have some kids that go to Right Tech, we have some kids that are PSEO.
Nice.
So what really happens then, back to, you find out they're not engaging? So their attendance is, they're absent. What's the consequence?
That's $1 million question. I'll speak from the elementary side of things because it's a little different. You know, our process in elementary school focuses a lot on student safety, security, parent support. And I've had just a couple cases so far this year where students are not engaging. For whatever reason, the parent doesn't have the capacity to support that student. You know, it's a 4th grader, it's a 3rd grader. We try to follow our same process in terms of reaching out. The teacher reaches out, I call, we send letters. What's hard is, how do we, not able to be in homes, support families in homes? And I feel like I had a really good conversation the other day with Marissa in Sherburne County, and she was describing a parent support outreach program that they have, and I was excited about that because in that partnership, they actually can provide social workers. They have an agreement with, I want to see Main Street Family Services, where they can provide some parent coaches and things, and so I feel good because I'm able to offer that option, because they can have someone go into home, do parent coaching, set up schedules, set up workstations, talk about how do I make an incentive plan for my student who doesn't want to work online. There's so many different scenarios that if I could go into that home and help you, I would do that, but I can't. So we've offered that to some families, but like with anything, the family has to be open to accepting that help. And so we do have some cases where it's really heartbreaking and frustrating, because all we can do is call and say, how can I help? How can I help? But until that family is willing to step up and ask for help, we're kind of stuck. However, we do still follow the process of, if there's a certain number of unexcused absences, we file a child maltreatment report for ed neglect, and the county gets involved that way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we follow our similar process, but the intervention steps we can take have to look a lot different. So it is a struggle.
And that's just for the 100% online, right?
Yeah, and that's all, and at the elementary school.
And
that's
but
the
that was
way
their choice, though, right, to do that?
Exactly, yeah. So, and that's why I think there's a little difference this year, because last year our attendance was very flexible because it wasn't a choice to be in that model.
Mhm.
We were all just doing the best we could. Our expectation now is that families have chosen to be in this model, so we're gonna hold some accountability in
Good,
terms
yep.
of participation and parent support. So, but it's all new and it's hard.
Well, and from the filing with the county, and I've been removed for a while, but isn't it age 12 and below? It's
Yeah.
considered educational neglect.
Correct.
And the county essentially is the emphasis on the parents more. And once you get above the age of 12, then it's called truancy, and that's where the student is more the
Correct, which
focus.
is another reason for the difference in language in terms of specificity.
by grade level, yep.
Because there's a difference in ages and all.
Yeah, and in our handbook, we already have that kind of laid out with the truancy, and so Katie's exactly right. So our first approach is always support. What can we do to offer those supports? What are the needs? What are the roadblocks? What are the obstacles getting in the way for the student to be successful? Often I find the biggest challenge is getting parents to respond. At the high school, we have myself, we have Carol, and we have Emily, and between the emails, the phone calls, the letters that we are required to send out, parents are getting hit in multiple different avenues, and we're just saying, if you get this letter, if you get an email, if you get a phone call, respond, so we know what's going on. And so the parents who respond, then we can work with them, you know. But it's really hard when the parents don't respond, and so that kind of gets our hands tied. And the state still requires attendance, and the truancy, you're correct, the truancy still applies. So really the difference is at Katie's level, it's more focused on why the parent is not having the student engaged, and at the high school level, it's more why is the student not engaging. And so sometimes the word truancy seems really punitive, but Sherburne County does a really good job with trying to have intervention steps before it actually gets to a petition to court. And so our truancy social worker that's assigned at our school that works with us very closely, she's awesome. And part of what her job is to say, what can we do to help? So a lot of parents, I tell them, don't feel like it's a punitive measure, because those parents are exhausted, you know, trying to get their student to do what they need to do, and they almost feel relieved to say, it's not them saying you have to do this anymore. Now it's the county, a truancy social worker, and sometimes even a judge saying, no, you have to do this. But we always look to see what's in the way, what support do they need, and we are very aware that during these times, mental health and social emotional health is a high concern, and then sometimes at our level, that mental health and the chemical health go hand in hand, and so we always want to make sure that we're looking at what the root cause is, because often when students aren't engaging, it's not because they just don't want to do school. So we take the approach of support, but at the same time, it's that fine balance, because it's like, but at some point we have to say we need a doctor's note, or you have to, there has to be something more going on than that he just doesn't, you know, the student just doesn't want to get up or whatever. And so it's a hard balance. I have, between testing and attendance, it's been really hard. I'm not gonna lie, I have not been in one classroom this year so far, because I feel like I'm just drowning in management pieces, and between the testing and the attendance, it is like literally today, all I did today, besides when I got up out of my chair and walked 2 laps around the building because I needed to move, all I did today was focus on attendance, specifically the online. So
And I just want to end by giving a shout out though on something positive. I've been very impressed with the teachers that we have. Some of them have been assigned and some of them have requested to be online teachers, and they really work really hard, at least I can speak for the teachers I work with, to build relationships with those families. And some of the things I see them doing, nothing we told them to do, but the things that they're doing to connect with families and support them, it's really been impressive. And so I do give a shout out to our online teachers. They're working really, really hard, and that does make our job easier.
yeah, and often a lot of these online teachers have said they didn't even realize how much work is going to be.
Yeah, I have a neighbor that is in a different district, and she's an online teacher, and I've talked to her
I'm an
afterwards.
online teacher,
outside going, I'm like, how's that going for you? And she's like, oh my God, I had no idea. But it's but you know, she still welcomes it, and she says it's just another challenge that we have to, just a new way of doing business, so.
But we're all in it together, you know,
Right.
and I always tell parents the same thing, we're all in this together, so. You know,
So I think it's important to note that when you say, all I've done is this, not to diminish it, I think you're doing a wonderful job. The fact that you're investing in our students and really trying to understand and really lean in and help, that's fantastic. So I don't want you to diminish the efforts that you're putting in.
Yeah.
And frankly, everybody in the district, it's really important that that we acknowledge that as a board, that we really appreciate the fact that you're going above and beyond and doing all this additional things and the efforts for our students. So
Yeah.
thank you, and please don't say all I've done, because we know you're doing a lot.
Yeah, well, and I feel for parents too, because some of the parents are like, they have to go to their jobs and they can't be at home, and you know, it's a struggle for everybody. But we're doing the best we can, and I appreciate those comments, Mr. Scales, and so really tonight I think it's just about adding some of this language into the handbook, but we will do our best to try to keep those communication lines open with parents in the community, with attendants. It's a new, you know, frontier. But I did want to maybe add, the last time I was here, we were talking about assessments, right? So on Tuesday was our ACT makeup day, and FedEx lost our test.
Thank God I wasn't a post office.
So the first, I've been a principal for 15 years. This is
Are
the
you
first.
kidding me?
This is the first time this has ever happened.
They'll show up somewhere, I'm sure.
So we had the students all in the media center. And they were doing their pre-test session right away at 7:30, and I was on the phone with FedEx and ACT the day before. I'm like, they haven't arrived. And then finally they showed up, box 1 but box 2 didn't show up. So box 1 has some of the supplementary things, but box 2 was the actual test. And so long story short, FedEx said, oh, we'll get them there tonight. I waited. If I left work and told our night custodian, keep a watch out. FedEx says it's coming tonight. In the morning, they weren't here, so I'm on the phone with FedEx, and they're like, "Oh, they're at the Rogers location." So I got in my car and drove to Rogers, and I went to their FedEx, and because they wouldn't give me the phone number, but they gave me the address. So I'm like, "I'm going to Rogers." And so, anyways, they couldn't. They don't know where the packages.
So
they
the
weren't
students,
Rogers?
so the students did not take?
They could. I had no test to give them.
Well,
So
at least they hadn't taken it and it was
Right,
on its
that's
way
what I was
back and got
thinking.
Oh,
lost.
that's what I
Yeah.
thought. I thought they lost them on the way in. Oh.
No,
So-
they lost them on the way,
So,
way
and
coming to the
so
school.
they were supposed to be delivered on Monday, and as of today, they still have not been found.
So
I think they need new ones.
what are we gonna do about that?
Well, this is interesting. So ACT said that there's no other data be offered to our students. So if those kids who were testing on the makeup day want to test, they have to sign up for a national testing.
Well, they can't use, when they show up, they can't use that test?
Well, Mr. Hedstrom, I still don't have the test.
Well, I know, but it's like mysteriously they show up.
Mark, they
Yeah,
never got
They're
them.
only good for the day of the actual test.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
but they
they're-
paid for it.
yeah.
Some people paid for them, right?
Yeah, they'll
So-
be reimbursed.
They're getting reimbursed, and the school's
Oh my
getting
God.
like.
Why is, but just because I don't know this answer, but why is it only good for that day?
I don't work for ACT.
I'm
It's-
just saying, but.
they-
Probably 'cause they don't want you to cheat on them or
Push
something.
They-
into the
Yeah.
box and got
So-
off the truck.
The
Mr.
test
Hedstrom, if
security
you-
around those tests are,
They're very
are,
highly secure. Mr.
highly
Hedstrom,
secure.
do you remember last year, we had our test date and then we had a snow day on our test date?
Mhm.
All those tests, we couldn't issue that day. We had to send them all back and get 200 more.
Wow.
Yeah.
it's true. That
Mhm.
kind of stuff happens.
Yeah, so, yeah, it was very interesting, so I just told the kids, we're just blaming it on 2020.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad they didn't take it and get lost
Yeah, that,
on the way back.
that's what
Oh my gosh.
That would've been really terrible.
That would be
actually
really
even
bad.
worse.
That'd be worse.
That would be worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we thank you for your time. Is there any more questions about our attendance?
No,
All right, thanks for having us.
Thank you both.
So do you need a motion to approve?
So there is a provision in the handbook that does allow for some edits to be done and some additions and those type of things without formal approval, but I'm, whatever the board is comfortable with, we could just move on with an update and they'll just insert this, whatever the
That's
board is
fine.
comfortable
Yeah,
with.
that's
I think they're good with that.
Because this is the
Did you?
workbook, that's not the policy, so.
Correct.
Yeah.
Did you want to do transportation first? So that we didn't
We can.
Well, I just didn't know if that would be.
No, I think this will play a part.
Okay, okay.
Thank you. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, what?
Did this change since you sent it out to us, or is it the same?
Some minor edits.
Okay, so it looks the same.
Yeah, it does. So, Madam Chair, members of the board, tonight I'm going to give you a brief update on our learning model. As many of you know, and those of you listening in the community know that our numbers around the region have been, around the state really, have been increasing. As a matter of fact, we received our new numbers today for Biglake schools, and we came in at, Sherburne County came in at 25.1, which is the highest we've seen yet since this system was in place. But it's important to know that all around us, I wrote some of these down, we are the lowest of all the counties surrounding us. All the way around, they're all above 25. But actually, the closest one to us is Wright County, and they are at 30.5. And the highest one is Mille Lacs County, which is at 48.9. So the numbers are increasing. So the one thing I can say for sure, as these numbers increase, it is inevitable that our learning models will need to change eventually if these numbers increase. So what I sent out to the board last evening or yesterday afternoon, and I'm about to share and hopefully have a bit of a discussion around today, is a letter that I'm going to send out to parents. And the emphasis, what I really want to focus on, is as we transition to a new learning model, I want to make sure we're being methodical, and that we're being strategic, and that we're being transparent. So what I'm trying to do is create a window of time in which families can prepare, teachers can prepare, and as a district overall, we can prepare for us to transition to the next level of learning models. So what I am proposing at this time, as we start to increase, obviously last week we had an 18, which allowed us to maintain the hybrid at the secondary and face-to-face in the elementary. We are at 25 this week. We are anticipating to be probably potentially in the 30s next week, and potentially increasing from there. But what I am proposing is that from the very beginning, we've talked about utilizing trends of data, and 3 points have historically been what we would consider a trend. So, anticipating that these numbers will increase potentially, I am proposing that on Monday, November 9th, and Tuesday, November 10th, we actually have what's called planning days. And they are, through the Safe Learning Plan executive order, it does allow school districts to offer planning days for teachers as we transition into other models for learning. So my proposal would be for us to offer on November 9th and November 10th, they would be non-student days, and teachers would be allowed to prepare for transitioning into the next model, which would start on Wednesday, November 11th, which means on Wednesday, November 11th, we would move to an all-hybrid model, which would be the high school would maintain being in hybrid, and the elementary would move into hybrid. Now, if you remember from our Safe Learning Plan, our elementary schools can continue to have all of the elementary students come to school every day, but what we would do is we would disperse those students out into 50% capacity, social distance requirements differently within our elementary schools. And actually, as it sits right now at Liberty, they've already taken on some of those adjustments. So the changes to Liberty would be minimal, but they would obviously shore up any areas to make sure that they're meeting that health requirement for that. At Indy, there's a few more changes that would need to take place. As a matter of fact, we were talking right before the meeting. This space right here, we're hopeful that actually we could move our board meetings to the middle school next month so that Indy could utilize this space, which is a bigger space that based on 50% capacity, they could essentially make sure those class sizes would fit in here, meeting that 50% capacity as well as the social distancing and whatnot. So really, for our families, what would happen is the elementary kids would continue to come to school like they have been, but they may have some different bus routes because our existing bus routes and transportation, I've got Rachel and Wayne here tonight, they're going to talk next, but the existing routes, some of the existing routes do not meet the 50% capacity for a hybrid setting in the elementaries. But now that we have to transition to that, they have worked and we can make that happen. And by November 11th, we will make that happen. So that when we transition, we'll be 50% capacity with our transportation, we'll be 50% capacity with social distancing in our elementary classrooms, and in the high school, essentially, it will be maintained what we are currently doing.
So as a parent per se, though, there's no change for them other than maybe a bus route.
Correct, from an elementary perspective.
At the elementary level.
At the elementary
There's
level.
really no change for that.
And maybe the high school, it depends. So I'm just going to say, in general, those students that ride buses, be prepared for some communication because it may be impacting some high school routes because we may need to take a secondary bus to help the elementary. So there could be some transportation changes. So stay tuned for that. Again, that's why pacing this out a few weeks from now allows us to communicate that and make that transition be smooth. Now
So
Go
just,
ahead,
just
Tony.
for clarity,
Mhm.
when will the decision be made
For
to do this?
this letter, I'm hoping to send out tonight.
Okay, so, but I didn't see on here when we would say to our community, it's gonna happen or it's not gonna happen.
Well, it
Like,
says
does that say that on
That's
here?
what this is.
It says
November
if metrics
16th.
continue to trend
Yeah.
upwards, Monday, November 16th, there's a change. So I guess the question is, when would we know
Yes,
that Monday is gonna be
that's what I'm trying to get
all
at.
online versus hybrid?
So,
Wait a second.
That's further on.
that's further on. So for the 11th, we would go all hybrid. That's what we're saying is happening right now on the 11th. So secondary hybrid, elementary hybrid. If the numbers continue to escalate and go up, then within the next couple weeks, we would be monitoring those, and if they are above that 30 mark, and there's certain criteria based on the county public health, then we would announce prior to the 16th. And by the way, we have a special board meeting to canvass the votes anyway, that week of the 9th. Sometime that week, we have to establish that to canvass the votes. That is when we would make that decision to move it forward to a distance in secondary or not.
Do they update the numbers every week?
They do.
Okay, so we have a few weeks of numbers, like 3 weeks of numbers before we'd have to make that decision. And really, the only big impact is the secondary.
Correct. And the only reason I say potentially on the 16th could go to distance in the secondary, because the numbers around our region, around our county, are quite large.
Right.
And
Yeah.
in visiting with public health, actually, I ran this proposal by our county partners, with our public health partners, as well as I did communicate with the area schools just to let them know what's being proposed. When I spoke with the county public health person today, she said that we seem to be about a week or two behind Wright County, and Wright County's coming in at about a 31 or a 30. So if the numbers hold, trends have kind of said that. But again, we've got a few data points in which we can monitor before we make that, like you said, Dan, that transition to a distance in the secondary. And of course, we're monitoring this every week. Every Thursday, this information comes out. And actually, I just did find out that Princeton, just so you know, Princeton is moving to hybrid elementary and distance secondary, because they're in mostly Mille Lacs County, but also some Sherburne. So they are transitioning on
that's
November
happening.
2nd.
Yeah.
They're
So,
preemptively doing this?
Their
Or their
numbers
numbers
are high.
indicated?
yeah, their
The
numbers are
high
like
numbers
48 and,
So they announced
Right.
it
For the heck of
today.
it, you know.
Most
Because are they doing for staff the second and third, and then the kids start the fourth?
correct. Yes, exactly. That's more accurate,
Yeah.
yes. They're doing the teacher preparatory days on the 2nd and 3rd, and then the students come in on, or the learning instruction starts on the 4th.
Most of the schools in the other counties are already or in the process of transitioning to distance learning. From what I understand, like I know people that work in St. Cloud, they're already on distance learning, and I believe Wright County too is in that process, or some of the schools.
Yeah, and this is where things get kind of interesting, because there are schools, because right now, matter of fact, I just had a commissioner phone call, they are allowing schools to take a scalpel approach, is what they that was a term that they used today, to go by school. And I've been saying kind of all along, there may be situations to where maybe one of our, maybe like Liberty needs to go distance learning because there was an outbreak in Liberty. Or maybe, just there's different, if you can create and isolate those pockets into those areas, then you may have to do that. But if you look at our data points from a county perspective, you'll see almost just a gradual incline since the start of school. And it's been real gradual. And some of these other counties, like up in the Princeton area, it's been more of a steep incline. So, again, the only thing that I can say for sure is that when our numbers increase like this, a learning model needs to change. We have to do something different to respond to that. And I feel like this timeline offers us an opportunity to communicate to our parents and communicate to our staff so that they know kind of what's coming. And also, it does offer an opportunity for us to take advantage of some of those planning days so that our teachers are well prepared, giving them a chance to kind of take a deep breath and reset and come back ready to go, because it'll be a new model that they're going to have to follow after that.
So just one suggestion on the elementary one, I would move it, all elementary students will continue to come to school each day, move that sentence way up, because I think otherwise the parents are gonna like hybrid. I got
Right.
kids in hybrid, that means 2 days a week, and who knows if they continue to read.
I think you have to bold it, because I think a lot of people just read the bold.
Okay.
Yeah, they're just gonna look for.
To be
Noted.
honest, I mean,
Ellen?
to get people to read this whole thing, it's a lot of
Alan's looking at it.
information.
Bolded. Alan's got it. The one thing I do want to just bring up, and I'm just going to say it because I know it's going to go through people's minds, so if in fact come November 16th or anytime between now and then, and we do have to, our numbers indicate that we have to move to a distance learning for the secondary. A question that is coming up, and I'll just be upfront with you, that I don't have a clear-cut answer, is do activities still go on in a distance learning model?
Yep.
And I will say this, according to what you read in the guidance, the answer is no. The guidance says once you move to distance learning, based on your numbers, you do not have activities. That being said, I just read an article 2 days ago. There are districts in the state that are somehow finding a way to allow those activities to continue. That's new news, but I don't know what that means exactly. So that is a question. Since these numbers came out today, that has been all the buzz with all of the superintendents and all of the area leadership, education leadership, to say, what is that next step? We don't really know just yet, but that question has been asked, and we'll get some clarification. And my hope is that the numbers don't get to that point, but if they do, I want you to know that I'm working on that, and there'll be clarification coming. There's a lot of language in here that talks about anticipated, and we are estimating these numbers to be there. Again, we want to be methodical with this move, we want to be strategic with this move, and we want to be transparent with it, so our families and our communities kind of know what's coming. So I would like to, again, I open the floor for discussion if there's other questions, but again, I'd like to send this out tonight, if possible.
So is this announcing that your planning day is the 9th and the 10th, or is that gonna, are you going to let them know down the line?
This is announcing the planning day
Okay.
as the 9th and 10th, because
Okay.
we would need to coordinate.
That's what I was trying to ask.
Right.
Are we saying that these are going to happen, or is there a date when we're going to decide these are going to happen?
No, this is saying these are gonna happen. The only exception is we are monitoring for the distance learning on November 16th,
Okay.
where it says anticipated.
I think for as far as like the activities, it'd be good to reach out and find out how those schools are doing that.
Yep.
I mean, I think parents are gonna push for something because it's social emotional.
Mhm.
They don't want their kids, I mean, especially the hybrid kids, they don't want them going right back to nothing, you know, so. Just
And
from
I'm-
becoming very highly involved in that community, I know there'll be a push for that, so it'd be good for you to see what you can find out. And I mean, determine then if that would work for Biglake or not, but.
Absolutely, and I want it on the record to say that I would love to see, I really want our kids to continue, obviously in school and in our activities. I am a big advocate for that. There is a benefit to that, not only from the mental health, but the teamwork, from the responsibility, from the respect, from the working together, the whole piece. So I see the benefit of that, and I will do what I can to make that happen. But like I said, it is explicitly clear in the guidance that if you go to distance learning, that is not supposed to happen.
Right.
But schools are doing it, so.
I'm assuming there'll be some guidance from the Minnesota State High School League too.
Minnesota State High School League has come out saying, Minnesota State High School League, MDH, and MDE saying that if you are in distance learning, no activities. But yet there are some schools that are doing that. So I just need to better understand that, and like I said, that has been out and about, and I would get clarification on that.
Is it distance learning though in the fact that the whole district is distance learning, or just the middle school, high school? That's, I guess, what I would be wondering.
That could be a good question. that I
Because
don't-
maybe
I
their
don't know.
elementaries are in hybrid, so they feel like they're not all distant yet, that maybe they can still continue activities.
Right.
Well, the good thing is we are actually tracking down since this, your 25.10 is already at, as of today is, or as of yesterday is 24.3, and that was the last date it was updated. So we are trending a little down, so there's still a chance.
Well, and the difference might be too is why did they choose to go to distance, right? Like, are their numbers really high? Is there COVID in the school? Or is it because of transportation issues and teaching issues and things like that? Because there could be different reasons, and that might be why. So I think
Correct.
there's just too many factors to take into account to say, we are or we aren't gonna do that. We'd have to look at the situation at the time.
Correct. And I also just wanted to give the board kind of just some, I just have totals here, I don't have the specifics, but as a district so far, as of today, we've had 8 positive cases so far within our school system, and we've had 96 individuals quarantine due to confirmed positive contact. So again, it's here, They're, you know, but I just wanted to share some of those numbers so that you understood where we were coming from in that perspective as well.
So, when I read this, there's 5 of these days set aside.
Correct.
Right, so would we assume that if the numbers start to trend back down at some point, there would be another set of days set aside to kind of reset again? Or is this, or is the 9th and 10th setting up for that future event as well?
I would say maybe, because honestly, the way, I hate to commit one way or another, Tony, to be honest
Yep.
with you, because I want to be fair to our teaching staff, and I want to make sure we're putting a quality product in front of our students as well. And I also want to make sure that the mental health and the support that our teachers are getting
Right.
is there as well. So for me to say that this is it, I don't know that I can commit to that. But for me to say we need an additional 2 days, maybe we just need 1. I know that the 5 days are cumulative. So basically we have those days, they are considered instructional days. They gave us that leeway so we don't lose that funding side of things. So
they're considered student contact days?
they
Yes.
are.
For funding.
For
funding.
funding, for funding.
It's just
Okay.
like when we went in March, it was just like when
Those
we,
2
when we
weeks.
shifted in March.
Yep.
And that whole week, the kids were home, but the teachers.
Well,
It's
Tony,
the
maybe
same
they
thing.
need, if we keep trending upward and elementary has to go to distance learning, they might need more days for them to prepare. I
Right,
mean,
right.
So you don't
Or,
wanna,
or to transition back
back,
too,
right.
to your
Yeah.
point.
Right.
Right.
I think the
Either
goal
way.
is always to keep the kids in the classroom when we can, but
Yep.
in times like this, I mean, you have to give people time to prepare as well. I think that's where you're coming from, maybe.
Right,
Okay.
and also too, I think we really need to start thinking and anticipating that distance learning is becoming closer and closer to being a real thing for us. So we need to keep that in our sight and be preparing, well, how might this look if we are full-time distance? How
Right.
might this look? And I think, you know, the one thing that I will say from our hybrid model at the secondary level, the emphasis that our teachers have been putting on really attempting to making sure that those students that are working in a distance level on the days they're not present face-to-face, I think the work that the teachers have been putting in, preparing for those distance learning portions of the lesson are really going to pay dividends if we have to go full distance, because
Right.
they'll already have that essentially, at least the mindset of we can do it there. So
Right.
that preparation has been key, I
Right.
believe.
It'll probably be easier on them to go full distance, honestly,
I,
converting.
what I heard, and again, later in my report, I'll talk about meet and confer. What I heard is that they're essentially planning double for every lesson, because they've got a distance learning lesson essentially, and as well as an in-class. Now, we can discuss the semantics of what that really means and maybe the integration of the two, but essentially, that's what I heard. So if they go distance, I know they'll be able to go all in on the distance, or they could go all in on the face-to-face when we get to that point, because we
Right.
will eventually.
Right,
So I want to stay positive.
right. So the reason I'm asking is to make sure that we use our time
Yes.
so that we don't run out of these days
Mm-hmm.
that we have for our teachers. That's what I'm getting at. It's not suggesting that we shouldn't use them, but let's use them wisely so
Right.
that, because in the event we may need more in the future is what I'm hearing.
Right. Well, and again, the whole methodical and strategic, I don't want to be bouncing back and forth because that's not good for our families either. But to your point, it is possible that we may have a few transition points
Right.
throughout the year that
Right.
we may want to reserve some of those for that. So,
Yeah.
yes, wise point.
the only thing on reading this, and I think that's why Tony and I had the question, is it says it's contingent, this plan is contingent, so I didn't take necessarily that November 9th and 10th were
Locked
for
in.
sure.
That's why I was asking the questions.
Okay.
Is the paragraph right above that? That last sentence says it's contingent on the trends. I just assumed maybe that then all of
Yeah.
this was contingent.
Alan?
Carol and I just fixed that.
Okay,
Okay.
good.
Sentence now added at the end in bold that says these learning model preparation days are necessary as well.
So we're telling our community we're locking in these days. There's no school on the 9th and 10th of November.
Right.
Right.
Correct.
And I'm sure
Okay.
that'll go like out on the website and
Oh, yeah.
Facebook as well.
I'm sure it's already there.
Not yet. We haven't
haven't
finished
hit enter.
discussing this yet.
They haven't hit the enter button yet, but it's-
Am I not supposed to live tweet this?
Yeah.
Okay.
So is there any other further discussion? I guess at this point, I would just assume that no comments mean you're directing me to go ahead and start communicating this and starting our planning for the 9th and 10th and anticipating that, and I will obviously keep you abreast to any additional changes. I would encourage you to watch my video from 2 weeks ago and take a look at the website navigation and go ahead and just save that data for K-12 because that is our county data, and it comes out every Thursday, mid-morning, and you'll see by county where we come in at from our score perspective.
We
So-
watch all your videos too.
You do you?
Yes.
I'm a household thing. Is that it? Well, I was given a compliment on that one because people don't always know how to navigate some of those type of things. So it's helpful. So, but no, in all seriousness, we do have a pretty robust website that does offer a lot of those resources. I would encourage people to take a look at that so that they can follow up with that.
So, for clarity, do we need to look at the edited version of this as a board, or are we comfortable? To
I'm
make
comfortable.
we're-
I'm comfortable.
comfortable.
He was making changes as we're talking, and
Yep.
Okay.
he does a good job communicating.
Yep.
Okay.
We're good to go.
I'm comfortable.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, on to transportation.
Yes, I'll invite Rachel and Wayne to come on up and join us here. So, Madam Chair, members of the board, I've actually invited Wayne and Rachel to come and just give a brief update on transportation. I will say this, this year has been challenging in a lot of respects. We've got, and not just within the classroom, but you can imagine we're sending all kinds of versions of learning models and all kinds of things to our transportation people at Vision, and they were really trying to make these things work. And I can tell you that in the past couple weeks here, working with Rachel and Wayne, we've really been focused on some solutions and finding some ways to make our transportation to and from our schools more efficient and better. And I think we're really on a good pace here, and I really appreciate the work that they've done. So I'm going to actually turn this over and let Rachel kind of talk about just a few items that she wanted to, and then if you have questions or anything, obviously I would open the floor at that time as well.
We want to thank you for the invitation to speak with you guys tonight. And the 2020-21 school year has been off to a good start, and it's been thanks to working with the administration with Biglake schools for the changes in the scheduling. Like Tim mentioned, it was extremely challenging before school started. Our staff were working on Labor Day to get everything prepped for the students to be able to come back on the 8th. So we want to thank you for the partnership that we have, and then also for the drivers and the assistants that we have working for us and their commitment to starting a new year with the changes and the accommodations that we needed to make. They've been doing a great job. There has been some challenges. I'm not sure if you're aware, but I think that's been communicated a few times that there's a national shortage on CDL drivers, and so finding school bus drivers has been extremely difficult over the past few years, and extremely difficult right now as well. But we've been working through that, and we've been able to keep up with the changes that have been given to us with the drivers that we do have. Our plans are continuing to look at, as was mentioned, we have one of our buses on the elementary level is over the 39 student capacity for a hybrid model. So in the next week, we are going to be working on balancing those routes so that we're taking the ridership on the high school level is less, so we're going to be decreasing, and in the middle school level, we're decreasing one bus for high school and for middle school so that we can take that bus and reuse that for our elementary school so we can balance out our numbers so all the buses are under 39%, or 39 capacity, excuse me. We have really appreciated the efforts the families have made to transport their own children, because in years past, we had 20 buses on the high school, middle school tier, and then with the previous structure, 20 buses on the elementary. This year, we have 20 buses total for high school. So the first tier is Liberty and the high school, and we have 20 buses there. And then for the middle school and the elementary, Independence, we have 20 buses, but that's with most being at 39. So it looked, and the capacity before was 65. So a lot of families have helped with that and being able to make this feasible We have the buses, but we don't have the drivers to increase routes right now. So that's what we're looking at. And just to kind of give you an idea where we were at with drivers, 2 Fridays ago, we had a third of our staff gone. So of 20 regular ed routes, we had 7 open routes we had to cover. And that is spreading us extremely thin. And we have another, we also work with Elk River, and between, to cover that, we had 5 Elk River staff driving in Biglake for us that day. So as we're moving forward, and however, when we have COVID cases within our own company, the finding drivers to fill in will be a challenge. So I just wanted to share where we were at.
Yeah, and that's an example, and that's why if you watched or read some of the recent communications from my office, I gave the example that if by chance we don't have enough bus drivers, we would have to, early in the morning, between 5 and 5:45, I would have to notify the secondary that we have to go distance learning this day until we can get enough drivers. So some of these modifications, I know there's a lot of districts are saying they'll have to go to distance learning because of the quarantine numbers, not even necessarily because of the positive cases in their schools, because we just do not have the staff. So transportation is just one area. We have a teacher shortage. We have substitutes for all of our staff. So it gets to be a real challenge when we have so many people gone. But again, that's why I've been communicating that we might need to isolate certain areas that we go distance learning, or certain levels, or those type of things, because of sometimes these staffing things force us to do that.
Just to clarify on that then, so let's just, hypothetical, we're 1 bus short for the secondary. You're saying that we would have to shut down school that day because of the 1 bus?
No. We would not have to shut down school. If we don't have enough drivers, we may have to shift to distance learning.
Right, so not shut down, but so that day, so instead of,
It's possible, yes.
Why would we
Isn't it-
shut the whole school
yeah,
down?
couldn't
We
you,
wouldn't shut the whole school down, we would just by level.
by level?
What does that mean?
So like the
Because you
6th
couldn't-
grade would be shut down?
Secondary.
No, it's like
Or I mean, sorry,
secondary.
okay, 3rd grade.
Because you couldn't just say, sorry, this bus doesn't get to come, but everybody else does.
Why?
Why, yeah.
Why couldn't you say,
Because
sorry,
that's not equitable.
Yeah, it's not equity in education, and we're,
but,
No, that group would have to be distance learning then.
Yeah,
Right.
you still
know,
get
but
the
it's
same
still not-
equity.
meaning that group could possibly say, okay, you're the A group, if you are the part of that bus route, you can now go to the,
Go online that day.
go online that day, or go to the B group, or something like that. It just
Yep.
seems,
Or,
I hope we want to get to it, but it
Me
just
too.
seems like 1 bus out of, I don't know how many routes we have, 20?
20.
That we shut down,
Well,
we
and-
eliminate the online or in person.
And in that example, we were talking about when 30% of the buses, we didn't have, if there's a situation to where, because they share sometimes drivers with Elk River Vision as well.
Yeah.
So if there's just a shortage, as a matter of fact, I just read in the Star Tribune today that actually MnDOT and county snow removal, did you read that
I
too?
read that
That-
too,
Yeah, where they're concerned that this may happen for our snowplow
Plow
drivers.
yeah.
And I would imagine that same thing goes for postal workers. I would imagine the same thing goes for.
Oh, no, we got plenty of them.
Okay.
Just saying, put a hiring freeze on, we got lots of people.
Okay. I'm just saying that those are extreme cases, and of course I want to communicate that as, because those are extreme cases, but in the same situation, I don't know what to expect, Dan. So, to be honest with you, obviously we're gonna do the best we can.
Because I think if
So-
you gave the option for like, so, just say that there's this 1 bus, and that's just, we're just using it as a hypothetical situation. We could just say, I'm sorry, your bus isn't coming today. If you'd like to take the option and ride share with, get some
Yeah.
parents together, whatever it may be, and they bring your kid in, that's fine. If not, well, they will do something online that day. That would make more sense than to shut down the whole 3rd grade for that
it would
day.
be better for them to know before 5 a.m., but yeah, I think especially at the high school
Well, that's
level.
hard to do, because you
those
don't know
kids
till
could-
Right.
the folks come
It might
into
be
work
late,
the
but they
next
could
day,
probably-
yeah.
But
Get
we
around.
have the infrastructure set up that if they didn't have that bus, they could be at home and they could log in and
We-
execute their day.
Correct. We have that infrastructure set up. But what we don't have is a communication infrastructure set up to just communicate with those individuals, which is, again, one of
I
those
get it.
things
Yep.
we're going to have to work on, because you're right.
it's this. Hey,
We've
guess
got.
what?
Those are two different things.
They are two different
Yeah, if
Right,
things.
your
but
bus
we were
doesn't show up
talking
today,
about-
You're gonna be online.
But you
Right.
can't execute that plan without having both of them.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but
Yeah,
you're
you
right,
have
we
to
do
know
have
the
the
parents.
infrastructure.
I just, yeah,
to do
I
that.
think I'm with you a little bit, is I wouldn't shut the whole second grade down or first grade down because 8 kids can't, or 9 kids can't come in, or whatever. I don't know how many would be on that bus, but,
39.
Yeah.
well, not all for that grade.
No.
Well, and like I said,
All it has to do is snow, and everybody comes to pick up their kids at Liberty. Today, there was it was 3 deep, the
Wow.
cars were. And I don't, how many kids got on the bus today? They were all getting in cars this afternoon. But on other days, and it's sunny and clear, I can pull right up, so.
So
Depends on the day.
are we, so as the numbers change, right?
mhm.
Are we like making a playbook effectively of what we do so that when that happens again, we have a model to follow?
Oh.
So like, okay, this bus didn't make it. Yep, you're online that day. And are we creating that list so that as we gather some stuff, at least we can communicate with the community to say, these are the what if scenarios that have actually played out. So if they happen again, you know what to do? There seems to be value in
Well,
that.
we haven't got there yet.
We
so
haven't got
we're
there
starting
yet.
we're already starting the conversations.
Too much information sometimes isn't a good thing either, though. So
No.
You're confused.
just caution
Yeah, confused
Yeah.
about
there, because people get confused. And like I said, this letter that we have, 10% are going to read the whole thing. Honestly, I mean, I have to communicate with parents all the time, and they're calling me, because maybe they didn't see it or they didn't read it, or I mean,
They got this far, and then
Yes.
they went, oh,
Yeah.
and they got
corrections,
distracted
then
or
just-
something
yeah.
happened. But truly, that's why I said bold it. If you want them to read it, bold it. They'll read the bolded parts, and if they have time, they might come back and read the rest. That's just people are busy.
And to your point, I understand what you're saying, and it has not happened yet. But to the question of, do we learn from mistakes or situations every time and try to do things better? Absolutely. That's on a day-to-day systems
Right.
organizational
I'm not suggesting
level.
we're doing anything wrong.
No.
It's a
And I'm not suggesting
communication
you're saying
tool
that.
with the community for certain scenarios that are based on our numbers are probably going to happen.
How many,
There's probably going to be a day where we don't have a bus capable of bringing third graders.
You need to set up
Something,
a remind for everybody and
you
just
know.
start
It'd be high
texting
school.
parents.
But you get my
I
That's-
mean,
point.
it'd be nice if you
That-
could do that as a whole school facility, right? Is like
We-
have remind set up and just text parents.
We have talked about our communication and sharing so that we can communicate almost as if a bus is a class, so that just you communicate with that. So again, that's the infrastructure, like you mentioned, you used the word infrastructure. We do have a structure in place to provide a distance learning for them. Yes, that's true. We do have that. Secondary, we do.
when we're
But we
in
don't-
hybrid, how many high school buses are there?
9 right now.
9.
9?
And it'll go down to 8
8.
when you can
So that
readjust
we
it.
can reallocate one of the buses to help with it, so that an elementary one switches to hybrid to make sure that we are under that 39 number.
Is that that's something to do with us promoting, drive yourself to school type stuff too? which
Yeah,
is-
and
that's
I
a good
think,
thing.
Exactly.
Tony, I think
That's
what
a
I'm
good thing.
hearing is, our philosophy is, we really want our kids in school, in person.
Yep.
And if we can and so, right now, the secondary are in there 2 days a week. We don't want to have one bus causing us to go to 1 day a week,
Right.
because that really is not what's best for the kids.
Correct.
We got to figure that out.
Right.
And so we have to figure out whatever contingency plans we can to keep at least 2 days a week. Because if you do it a 1 day a week, that's 50% of their in-person time gone for the week.
Right.
That's big.
Right.
It
So,
is.
And then parents might start thinking, well, why,
why bother?
yeah, why not keep them at online or do homeschool or something because they're not even in school. So those are things to think about too.
Absolutely. And we will. All right, are there any other questions for Rachel or Wayne?
Nope.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you for, doing what you
Thank
guys
you.
do. You're doing a
Thank you
great
for
job.
inviting us.
Thank you.
I did read the communication that we talked about, having to shuffle people around, and
Yeah.
I'm glad I got that taken care of, so.
Well, that's one advantage of dealing, having an outsourced transportation service is they have other towns and they have other resources.
Right.
If we had our own,
Right,
We'd be in trouble.
we'd be really in trouble.
right.
So I want to give an example, though. We've had, on that day that we had, where the 7, we've had 5 instances where we've called other companies in the area. And of those 5 requests, we had requested a minimum of 2 routes per time. Of those 5, we had 1 day where another company could provide 1 driver. So, it's just to put into perspective that this is, and most of the, and we are starting to see positive COVID cases with our employees as well. So not in Biglake district, however, in another district we serve. So I do anticipate that as it's going through the schools, it could potentially transfer to our bus drivers too.
We're all in this together.
Yeah.
We're all in this together, and we're all trying to make it work.
Please refer back to the last email I sent
thank
you.
you.
What's
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're gonna start singing High School Musical
I
here
know.
pretty soon. So, okay. So if a level of school has to close, you're hoping to do it between that 5 and 5:45 time?
I will do it as soon as I possibly know.
Right.
That.
But I
that's-
mean, if there's like a whole bunch of staff
Right.
out and you have to.
Yeah,
I mean, it
if we
isn't
know
just
about
us.
that ahead, as
Can you
soon,
just kinda look at it as a snow day
it's, that was the time frame at least. It's just different. And again, I hope we don't have to get to that point. And our models hopefully will mitigate some of those things that we're evolving to here. But in the event, what I tried to communicate to the community was that I'd commit to the snow day timeframes. You'll know by this window of time, and that's
So-
early, because oftentimes we don't know till then.
It's frustrating.
So
It is. And we'll
here's
do the
my
best
other
we can.
question. Is that gonna be published on like the news, local news too, like snow days?
That's a great question. I guess I have yet to see a school district
Well, I
post
don't
that
know.
on like Care 11 or any.
They're
I've seen-
I don't think you wanna advertise it.
Well, no, but, well, because I'm just thinking some parents that don't check emails or whatever
But
and
do we
flip
have,
the
I don't know
TV
this.
on.
I had a relative at my house working on an electrical thing at my house, right? And he picked up his phone, he had a recording.
Yep.
Did we do that too?
We've talked about the capability of the,
I
my
get those-
previous
I get those
district.
at
Last,
work.
it was just talking, and then so did my brother-in-law out of Monticello. They had something
I get
changed,
that at
and all
work,
of a sudden
too.
it started, he picked it up, all of a sudden, wow, wow, I'm like, what do you, oh, we get these all the time.
So-
Again, building the infrastructure for that to take place.
Okay.
So you guys are making my point. You're asking these questions about what we're gonna do if something happens. So why don't we put it on paper and start thinking about it? Why?
I'm sure
That's
they
why I
are.
asked, 'cause he
Well,
said
I've
that's
asked that, and the answer was, we don't think we need to do that.
I don't think, no, I don't
Oh,
think
that
we
wasn't
need
the
to.
answer.
No, I don't
No, we
think
don't
so.
need to send
I
it
heard
out.
that we didn't want to have that information because it'd be too complicated or
No, he
whatever
said
the
he's
words
keeping
were.
track of
Send
it.
it
We're not
out
sending out to
to-
I
parents.
understand that.
families.
I understand not sending it out, but are we putting this together, these scenarios?
He
that-
said he was,
The-
yeah.
The plans, yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
He said he was.
That's
We
not
thought
the,
you
that's
wanted
not
to
the
say-
message we
thought
got
you-
earlier.
No, we
Yes.
thought you were asking, are we sending that out to families? That's what I think.
He said he was keeping
Okay,
track.
so what I heard is that we're gonna figure out which kids are on which bus. So if bus number 8 doesn't have a driver, we can communicate to bus number 8 kids, sorry, bus number 8's not coming today. Here are your options. That's what I heard.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
What do you got, Alan?
All right. Well, I'm excited to share with the board tonight our annual presentation for Community Ed, which is, as we all know, everyone's favorite department in the school district. Just had to throw that out there. So I'm very excited to talk about the successes and the challenges that community education has had to face this year. And so I really can't get started first without, I really need to thank all the administrators and all of the staff. Really, this district really focuses on the whole person. When you think about it, I've worked in a couple other districts, and community ed has always kind of been the outlier, the second afterthought, or even the afterthought of the afterthought. And here in Biglake, everyone, even the principals, teachers, everybody really looks at how is this going to impact community ed. So I've been very thankful, especially taking over in the middle of a pandemic, for the wise and sage wisdom of all my colleagues here in the district. So it's actually been really great. So in the bottom right of this, you'll see this logo. That's Community Ed 24/7, 365. That's our statewide motto. It's really important that Community Ed is a active presence in a school district because it's our job to bring the community in to continue to support and address concerns that they have with education. So when I took over back in August, one of the first things I did is I brought in we have a department of about 120 employees, and I brought them all in for our first ever community ed kickoff. And I said, here's the deal. Things stopped in March. We fell apart at the seams. This year is going to be a rebuilding year for community ed. We're going to look at stuff. We're going to leave no stone unturned, and we're really going to focus on rebuilding our programs, improving those programs, implementing new stuff, and cutting some of the programs that just really weren't of a current model anymore. And I really have to say all of my employees have really taken that to heart. And you'll see some pictures and some examples of that here as we go. So go ahead, John. So we're going to start out talking about early childhood, our youngest learners. They are by far one of the most entertaining and fun programs that this district has to offer. It is so much fun to just go into a classroom and instantly get attacked by 18 little people that just want to know what you're doing there, who's this adult in the room. They want to show you your painting projects or things that are going on. And then even going into an ECFE class is a ton of fun too, because even the parents, the young parents there, you know, they want to know who you are. What do you do for the district? They want to show off their baby that they've brought with them to this ECFE class. So our early childhood programs, I mean, they encompass little learners and ECFE. So this year, we'll focus on ECFE here for a minute, is we're offering 12 full classes that meet weekly. Keyword is full. Last year we offered 13 classes and they weren't always full. So even though we had to decrease the class, we're still doing really great. New this summer and this fall, we offered ECFE Outdoors at Liberty. We're really focused on providing outdoor experiences so that we're not limiting our participation and we're being safe and we're being healthy, and that our parents have an opportunity to meet. A new class this year is called Music Makers, which is absolutely great. We have an incredibly talented teacher who plays ukulele and a variety of other instruments. And parents and children, they're just introduced to all the instruments. They get to play, they get to make music, dance around. It's kind of a headache, if I'm being honest, but it is so cool to see the kids having a blast and mom and dad going, look what he can do. This is great. And I'm like, oh yeah, he's on beat. That's great. ECFE, we continue to partner with Biglake Library. It's one of our closest partnerships in ECFE. Kind of one of our highlights is the story strolls. You may have seen them along the side of, out on the sidewalk. Basically what the library does is print out giant blow-ups of books and puts them on yard signs, and kids can walk down the sidewalk and read it. And so every week,
This was always on the backside. I couldn't see what was on the other side.
yeah, so that's exactly what was going on. And so every week they actually give us a story stroll and we put it out in our outdoor classroom and the kids just eat it up. They absolutely love it. We are going to try to offer 3 special events and some community baby showers again. We're in the process of planning those. As you know, typically we did like Saturday mornings, Rise and Shine, and all those other programs. So we're hopeful that we're going to be able to do that. We're working through those plans right now. We just had our first community baby shower the other day and we had 8 babies there. I say babies and not parents because really no one cares about the parents when they're there.
It's just how they got there.
Yep, it's just how it is. And again, our ECFE program, as you remember, it's an award-winning program. We're recognized at the state level over and over again, and parents pay attention to ECFE and our advertising. So we pull people from all over the area. It's not just Biglake. We're pulling Elk River, Monticello, Crystal, Zimmerman, Becker, Otsego, Maplewood, all the way to Delano even. So our ECFE programs are really strong. They're very viable, and they're continuing on that path. Go to the next one. So ECFE in the Park is our largest partnership with the city of Biglake, where we host an event at different parks and we try to encourage families to explore what Biglake has to offer. And each event has a different theme, and it's a great time to play at the park and socialize for both children and parents. And we have some awesome partnering agencies from the Biglake Police to Centricare, even the Wildlife Refuge, and then the Biglake Library Store, like I said before. This year we were only able to hold it 4 times because there were restrictions on large outdoor gatherings in the beginning of the summer. And we had 40 families who participated in ECFE in the park. To kind of put that in perspective, last year we held it 6 times and we had 151 families. So that really hurt our program participation.
It was still a really scary time.
Yep. You can go on. So Little Learners, our number one goal in Little Learners, which is our school readiness program, is to prepare students to transition to kindergarten. I kind of refer to this as the booster program for the school district because we would like to pull those kids in and get them ready for the next step in their formal education career. And a large percentage of those that enroll in Little Learners actually do stay and go into kindergarten. It's kind of hard to track that data because we do offer school readiness for 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. And as you know, once they hit 5, some parents hold them back, some parents move them forward. So it's kind of difficult to track that data, but it is a large percentage. It's about 90% of our kindergarten age eligible kids that move from little learners to kindergarten. So we are kind of seeing the same trend along the lines of our kindergarten enrollment this year, where it's a little bit down because parents are probably holding them back. So we're offering 12 sections serving 175 students. Last year it was 210 students. So we are seeing some smaller numbers. One of the things that we are really pushing is an outdoor curriculum using the Project Learning Tree curriculum. Project Learning Tree is really focused around an outdoor environmental learning. One of our strategic goals as a department is actually to start a full-time outdoor-based preschool program. So we're looking at different parks around the area, talking with Sherburne Wildlife Refuge and a couple of other outdoor entities. A couple of our neighboring districts already have full-time outdoor-based preschool programs, so we're gonna catch up. Outdoor programs, I mean, they're proven to be successful in engaging our students. They break habits. I mean, really, preschool students, they just want to play and they want to explore, and being outdoors is probably one of the greatest places to do that. And students who, in neighboring districts, when I've talked to other community education directors, you know, those kids are more physically active, they're creative, they're more civil to one another because they just have the space to spread out if they need to. And it really helps improve the students' health. I mean, if they're outdoors running all the time, it reduces obesity, attention deficit disorder, and depression in our kids. And it also really supports STEM. So we're getting our youngest learners started with STEM programming as quickly as possible. So we are beginning the process. Early childhood programs in the state of Minnesota are moving to a new assessment called TS Gold. Basically what it does is it builds a profile on each child, and then the teachers can answer questions used to scaffold the child's learning and benchmark where they should be. So it's really focused on, you know, what does the child learn, what is he or she able to do, and helps the teachers gauge that. You can move to the next one. So we use Seesaw just like Liberty and now Independence use. So really our families are experiencing a seamless transition in our technology platforms. So we have over 500 posts a week and over 700 visits to our Little Learners and ECFE Seesaw accounts. So this is an awesome, kind of one of those great examples of how we're bridging all the way from early childhood all the way up through K-12 so that our families can continue to engage on Seesaw. You can go to the next one. So Hive Time, which is our wraparound childcare for preschool, right now we have 44 contracts. Last year we had 62 contracts, and then there were 10 kids on the waiting list. So we are seeing a dip, and that's directly related to our smaller numbers and Little Learners. All the children that attend Hive Time are required to be in our preschool program. Our curriculum aligns with the preschool program. In fact, actually our wraparound care is actually located in the preschool pod, so the kids don't have to travel very far. It's a lot of work to move a 3-year-old down the hallway at Liberty, but we do it. And we're 4-star parent to wear rated, and we have access to the new nature classroom that's outdoors at Liberty as well. Go on. So Kids Club, which is our school age care program, it's offered at Liberty and Independence. This year we have 189 contracts, and you can see the site breakdowns. Last year we had 291 contracts. However, even though our contract numbers are down, our daily counts are averaging about the same as last year, meaning that the people who really need childcare are still accessing it. So for instance, last year over at Independence, we averaged about 40 kids a day. We're still averaging about 40 kids a day. Liberty was typically 70, and we're still at 70. So I'm not anticipating a huge swing in our revenue for school age care in that regards.
But does that include the emergency care or not?
That does not include emergency care yet, yeah. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And again, one of the points of pride with our district is that we participate in the Child Care Assistance Program through the Department of Human Services. So we do qualify for those families of lower income that need county assistance. We're able to take those families. A lot of school districts are moving away from that because it really is a lot of work, administrative work, to stay compliant with the federal regulations for childcare. I am an adamant supporter that we continue that, because I've seen the quality of our programs improve since I've come here tenfold just by participating in this program. Our staff are much more attentive. They're much more engaged. They're getting those professional learning opportunities, because that's one of the requirements as well. So I see we're able to retain our staff a little bit longer than we were before too, just because we're giving them those extra opportunities to really look at their career in childcare. Go to the next one. So Opening Doors is our Adults with Disabilities program, and you can keep scrolling actually. We belong in a consortium for this. It just creates a leaner, more efficient organization. And Buffalo Community Education is actually our fiscal agent for Opening Doors. We are just starting to pick back up a little bit here, so we're going to host 6 classes in Biglake from September to December here. You can see it's everything from floor hockey to decorating a burlap bottle vase. So the Adults with Disabilities program is a very popular one in our consortium. It's one that it's just an awesome opportunity and a great program for those families to participate in. So adult basic education is often one of the more forgotten learning opportunities that school districts offer, because so many of the learning opportunities happen during those unseen hours, normally late at night or in the morning. Keep going. So we belong to West ABE, which is a consortium of 17 schools and 3 jails. In Biglake, we offer GED, ESL, basic skills, reading, writing, math, English, citizenship, test preparation, driver's permit test studies. Right now, we are currently in distance learning for ABE, which actually didn't affect our numbers very much. In Biglake, we still have 20 students, 2 teachers and 6 volunteer tutors that meet over Zoom. They do come in occasionally if they just need that one-on-one help or there's some testing that needs to happen. I was actually talking to our ABE teachers a little bit this morning, and here in Biglake, which I thought was really interesting, is we have a lot of students who are American-born who are just working on their GED. Maybe they didn't finish high school or are finally wanting to go back to school for that. We also have a large number of students who have immigrated to this country from Somalia, Mexico, China, El Salvador, Colombia, Honduras, Guatemala, Sudan, and Guinea, which is really kind of interesting, I think, and really cool to see those students engaging with our teachers here in Biglake. Keep going. So general community education is our program areas like gymnastics, aquatics, facility rentals, youth programs, and adult programs. Kind of a point of pride here is that community education has been operating in some capacity since the COVID-19 pandemic began. We've provided emergency childcare services, and we were the first ones to really start programming and bringing students back into our district this summer once things started to open back up. And I'm going to knock on wood here. In the last 7 months, we have yet to have a positive COVID case in any community ed program, including facility rentals. So yeah, everyone knock on wood real quick.
Press forward.
Okay,
So
here.
that is something, and we've realized, it takes strong mitigation factors. And this is really, I have to give all the props to my team who really manages our COVID mitigation strategies. Anyone who wants to come into our facilities or participate in our programs, they have to agree to a daily symptoms check. Our associations have to submit a COVID-19 plan, which gets approved by Kathy Phillips, who's our facilities program secretary, and myself. If we really need to take a bigger look at it, I bring Tim, I bring TJ, Logan into the mix as well. And we all kind of work together to help those associations be successful or those facility rentals be successful to mitigate any potential COVID-19 exposure. So really, I mean, it's absolutely awesome. So I do have to thank everybody that uses our facilities for their help. So we'll move here now to the chart. So this is kind of the concerning part and the biggest impact here with community education. So I did a 5-year graph of what, our chart of what community education program numbers look like. So last year, you can see we really did take a big hit. with our program participation. And basically, that's essentially because we eliminated programming in the spring. And then when we were able to come back in the summer, it was with reduced capacities. You know, I think about one of our biggest programs in the summer, speed and strength. We were only allowed to have 8 kids in the weight room. Typically, there were like 40 per hour going through there. So, and same thing with basketball. When basketball first reopened, you were only allowed to have 10 kids on a court. Actually, 9 kids and a coach on a court. And now it took a while to get back up to that level. There are still those restrictions in place, like pods of 25 and so on, but we're getting there slowly. I'm hopeful that as things continue, next year this will just be a blip. It'll be a weird outlier, and our numbers will be back up.
But if you look at that, though, I mean, obviously it was a hit on participation, but the non-duplicated, which is the people that actually, the one person, it's a hit, but it's not like a crazy.
Yeah, it's not a huge.
They're still coming. You just can't go to all the things that are being offered. It's really, you didn't
Right.
really lose them. You just lost the ability to give them
Right.
more, right?
Yep, we lost the ability to give them more, and then on a budget stand side, we lost that revenue.
Yep.
So we'll kind of talk here a little bit about some of the challenges that are really affecting community education here. So I kind of touched on this base. Our fund balance decreased because program enrollment was eliminated in the spring. There wasn't an opportunity to participate. We had to provide care for Tier 1 emergency workers, which were free of charge. And I kind of want the board and everyone here to kind of be aware that childcare will be jeopardized a little bit this year due to the lack of staffing. Even before COVID-19, there was a huge childcare infrastructure problem in Minnesota. And this has really shown a light on how difficult it is. I truly believe that's one of the reasons why Governor Walz mandated that school districts provide free childcare to Tier 1, just because there weren't the centers, there weren't those home daycares existing anymore. Again,
is there going to be compensation from the state then on the ones that we did on
So-
the emergency basis?
yes, so actually, I was gonna talk about this later, but that's okay. So,
Was this in here before? I don't remember seeing this.
no, it's not in
Okay.
there.
It's not.
I usually read all that.
Yeah, one of the, I just found this out about 2-3 weeks ago, actually, in the first time peacetime emergency grant money went through in July, school districts didn't qualify for that. And then this time, 2 weeks ago, all of a sudden school districts were able to apply for it. There's about $53 million out there. And what they're gonna do is whoever applies for it, they're gonna take a look at your program numbers, they're gonna take a look at who you serve. If you can guarantee that you'll be open from September 15th to December 15th as well. So if, and I don't wanna say the number out loud because I might jeopardize it, but we could potentially qualify up to $76,000 in peacetime emergency grants for offering free childcare. So I'll find out here probably by the end of next week how much we were allocated overall. So one of the things I talked about earlier with our DHS and Child Care Assistance Program, one of the things that we did 2 years ago is we actually set up each site as an individual child care center rather than the whole picture. So we qualified for 3 times the amount. So Independence is a child care program, Liberty is a child care program, and the Hive Time is a child care program.
Which it should be.
Yep, and that's the way it should be, but there are districts out there that didn't do it that way, and now they're really regretting it. So that's kind of exciting. So, and again, our childcare, you know, Liberty right now is busting at the seams, and I can't find enough staff. We have, like I said earlier, on average 70 kids. And now with quarantine procedures, we're facing the same staffing shortages that the school districts are and the bus companies are with being able to find qualified subs to take those positions. So we're working on it. And again, our registrations range 25 to 80% when they're compared to this time last year.
And Alan, you provide for essential workers now, you still provide?
So the caveat here is that once we go into distance learning, then we have to provide free child, if.
If we go into strength.
Your tongue over there, young man.
As of right now?
Yes, as of right now, childcare is at cost.
Okay.
But if we go into distance learning, it's free during school hours, meaning, so Liberty is 7:35 to 2:15. It would be free during that. If parents wanted to drop off earlier or stay later,
like
the wraparound we would charge
Okay.
for before and after school. So, One of the other challenges that we're facing too is obviously school and community ed and community groups that want to use spaces. Things are tightening up as a result of the challenges with 25 kids in a pod and you know, the change in school start time. So now high school athletic practices go a little bit later than they were before. And so obviously we still follow this, you know, the school gets first priority, then community education, and then community groups. We're still following that chain when we prioritize our facility spaces. And then again, another challenge with community education is we're providing options to allow families to participate in different ways in their comfort level. There are those families that, yeah, rip off the mask, I'm here to participate. And then there's those families that want the virtual experience. So we do offer some virtual programs or, you know, STEM kits that get sent to the houses, or mom and dad can come pick them up. So we're just offering a very different style of community education than what's existed in the past. So we touched a little bit on the budget here. And so I just want to let the board know that as of today, I've applied for up to $260,000 in grant money from different various entities, you know, through Sherburne County, the Biglake Township, Peacetime Emergency, even through Mountain Dew. They're offering a grant for outdoor learning experiences. And since we're trying to get one up and going, we're going to find that money. And we're being very fiscally conservative. I tell my staff, we're melting the little crayons to make the big crayons. That's where we're at right now. And that's where we're going to be for a little while. So those are some of the necessary steps that community education is taking to ensure that, you know, we're minimal impact, if any, to the general fund in the next few years. So any questions? You can scroll down.
Any questions?
That's a great
Thank you.
update.
You're very thorough.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's nice
Thanks,
work.
Alan.
Okay, on to approve the special meeting to canvass the general election.
Yes, Madam Chair. I know we had originally scheduled a meeting on November 12th, but I have a conflict that evening. So I would respectfully request if we can maybe move that meeting until November 10th, perhaps, or November 9th. One of those evenings would be preferred, if possible.
So what day is it, 9th?
9th or 10th, whichever one.
10th does not work for me. Oh, that's true, we just do that in the morning, right?
No, we're doing it before our work session.
Oh, that's right.
When's the work session again?
Well, we're gonna canvass the election as a special meeting.
And then do the work section afterwards.
And then
How
if we
many
have to
days?
discuss anything else.
How many days do you have before you canvass?
Fif-
Bef-
We have to canvass it between, before the 13th.
Yep, we do, yeah, with the.
So Friday the 13th, we have to do it by then.
But you
It
can
is the
do it like the
13th.
5th?
No,
It's, what is the date?
is it the 6th though? You have to wait till I think they've got 3 days to count the votes this year.
Yeah. So.
Might need 3 months.
The none,
I know.
the 9th, no,
Well,
none.
hopefully not for school.
The
board.
9th, I'm not available until like 7 after, I have to teach from 6:30 to 7:30.
Yeah, and I have a meeting on the 10th.
It's a Zoom, so I could be available shortly after, but
Not that 11th doesn't work?
11th is Veterans Day, we're not allowed to have,
Well, it's school that day.
right? We can't
Right,
have
but we can't have
meetings.
meetings.
yeah, you can.
The 9th or 10th works for me, but
I'll be on business travel, so I'll probably miss it, but that's okay, as long as we have a quorum. All you need is a quorum to canvass.
And it was the 12th, you said that's what originally had it,
That was
right?
the original
Yeah.
date,
Okay.
correct. And the other thing too is that unless,
13th is
well, I kind of need to be here.
I can do the 10th, I just can't make the 9th work because I'm teaching that night.
Lynette, Dan, what are your thoughts, 9th or 10th?
Well, 10th would, I could probably make the 10th work.
What
We're talking
time?
6:30?
Time is your meeting, Mark?
Mine's at 7.
Okay.
It's just at Fire Hall, so it's, but I gotta be at that one.
I could probably zoom in, if we need to.
The 13th doesn't work?
It's a Friday.
That's a Friday.
Well, we're not going camping or nothing, so. 13th actually works.
It's my brother's birthday.
Friday the 13th just
Actually
feels
works.
wrong. Just a-
Could we do 6 o'clock on the, what date? On the
The 10th?
10th?
So, for
We could-
clarity,
We could do a Zoom meeting and bring Tony in and then we'd
Right.
have enough people.
is this just for this canvassing?
No, we're doing a work session.
And if
And-
we would need to make a decision, I mean,
If
I
we-
open
If we
that
need to make a
because
decision for
distance.
distance.
Why don't we
the
make it a
numbers.
Zoom meeting on the 10th?
Yeah.
Okay,
Why don't we just make it as, yeah,
we can do that.
And you want, and
Oh, can we do a Zoom meeting to canvass the election?
yeah, why
why
not?
not?
I don't know.
All
Just
we're doing
asking.
is saying,
We're not
hey,
counting
We're
votes.
letting you vote early. I mean, they should let you do
Just
Zoom
asking.
to canvass it.
or are we?
Weirdest things, you can't do it on
Yes,
Veterans
you
Day,
can-
so.
You can conduct action through Zoom meetings, like
Yes.
you did last
Yeah.
spring.
Yes.
Could you do a Zoom meeting on the 9th? Does that work for everybody?
The 9th,
I'll probably be-
I wouldn't be available from like 6 to 7:30.
I'm open on the ninth. It doesn't, ninth, I'm open on the ninth, so.
6 to
Amber's
7:30,
not open
I
on the
couldn't
Okay,
either.
but you're open on, you're not open on the 10th.
Oh crap, yeah, the tenth is, yeah, officers meeting at 6, JP meeting at 7. On the 10th.
So the 9th would be better.
Hmm?
The 9th would be better.
And it would have to be later.
At 7, but you could do it at 7, Amber?
I'm available at 7:30, like my class is done at
Yeah,
7:30.
it don't matter,
so I can
anytime
jump
on
at
Monday
7:30.
doesn't work, it works for me fine.
Well, we can do
I
it
can
at
see if I
7:30.
can get someone to sub for me, but right now it's really hard to find
What were we
people.
gonna talk about at the work session? Were we gonna have a work session?
I was gonna keep that open just in case we would need to make any adjustments on anything, as long as it's a formal meeting. We could
So
make
we
it
don't
just canvas.
we don't necessarily need to have, I mean, we can do a formal meeting, but we don't necessarily have a work session that we.
No, I don't have a
talk
topic right off the top of my
Okay.
head.
So we just need like a half an hour
Correct.
to
At
do
the
a couple
most.
things and that's it.
Correct,
about. Right,
correct.
correct.
So,
Okay.
I mean, like I said, I'm available at 7:30 that night, or I'm available before 6 on the 9th.
I'm
I'm
not-
open all
I'm not-
day on the 10th.
What would you say about the ninth?
On the 9th, I could be available late, but not early.
Like what time's late, 7:30?
Yeah, sure, but
I'm
20's on a
okay.
flight, but,
You're actually on the airplane at that time?
well, again.
You
we-
can have internet, pay the freaking $6 and get on the internet. I watched a movie on it,
How late does your 7 o'clock meeting go?
Oh,
On
till
the-
like 8.
maybe a resignation we have to,
Yeah,
What?
Oh, what?
What?
yeah.
we have to approve a resignation.
I won't know than that until, we don't canvass.
We don't know that until.
We don't canvass.
So it won't matter then.
Yeah,
that
we
day.
won't canvass ours at this township is on the.
What?
He would have to start early on his other.
Oh.
Township, the township is until Friday the 13th. They're canvassing, so.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Okay.
somebody's gonna have to miss, so
Yeah.
we can't make it work. So we have to do it either on Monday or Tuesday.
But if we do it Monday, it sounds like Tony can't make it at all, and Amber would have to do it really late.
Unless we did it Monday morning. Could do it Monday morning.
We would have to do Monday morning, I have to be to work by 7:30.
6:30 in the morning works fine
No,
for
I'm
me.
not-
I don't wanna do
No,
the
no,
morning,
no, no.
we did
Alright.
those before.
Wow, sounded good.
Well, I'm not a morning
Technically.
person, I prefer not to do the morning.
So let's just do the Monday at 7:30, and
Yeah.
if you can get in, you can, right?
Yeah.
Just a half hour meeting.
'Cause- Yeah,
Okay, 7:30,
Cause I bet
Thank
you,
you.
you build,
Cause-
sorry.
you build a Zoom on your
So we're canceling the work session
Okay.
for the
It works pretty
12th.
good.
12.
All right.
I've actually watched a guy do it.
And we're moving it to
Okay.
Monday, November 9th, 7:30. And do we want to do Zoom?
Yes.
Okay, so Zoom. I'm assuming Kim got that.
7:30 p.m., right?
7:30 PM, Monday the 9th.
And what was it again, so I can just move it?
It was
the
to
12th.
canvass, special board meeting to canvass.
It was the
those.
12th, right, work session.
And it's just that. And-
or
I
the
know,
only other option would be is if we have to talk about this other,
but that's just yes or no.
Correct.
That's not a debate or.
no,
Okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Oh, right,
right.
right.
Okay.
So we're now
In theory, it
looking,
would be my last meeting.
so we're
It
looking
could be
at
argument.
Tuesday, November 10th at 7:30.
No.
No,
Monday,
Monday.
November 9th
But-
at 7:30.
Monday, oh, sorry, Monday, November 9th at 7:30. Okay.
Correct.
Correct.
Oh, no, you do need to keep the work session if we need to discuss that, right?
No, we can do it during a special, we're gonna say it's a special board meeting, not just canvass the election.
No, canvass election, I thought you have to have a meeting, cause we're having, at the township, they're having, you have to have a canvass the election.
It has
That
to be voted,
one,
it has to be voted to approve, but you can
Correct.
add additional items to that. It doesn't have to be in isolation.
really?
Mhm.
Okay, okay.
So we're just doing a special meeting in case we have to discuss this too.
Alright, so it's, this is gonna be called a special meeting,
Yes,
Yes.
and canvass is gonna be part of the
the
special
special
meeting.
meeting.
Ah,
Correct.
Yeah.
there you go, now
There it
I
is.
get it. Well, special meeting, you have to have, and a special meeting, you have to have each individual thing already laid out, you can't add anything later, right? So it's gonna be
It has to be just like
the
this.
canvas.
You can
It
remove
has to be
stuff
just
though,
like
Mark.
this.
Yeah.
You can remove stuff, that's the thing. You
Yeah.
add these two things, and if we have to strike one off, we strike one off.
Correct.
Right.
But you can't add anything.
7:30.
Okay,
7:30,
I,
Just
November
making
9th.
sure. I don't want no surprise.
I will make a motion that we get rid of our work session on the 12th. We have a special meeting on Monday, the 9th, at 7:30. It'll be a Zoom meeting to canvass the election and to discuss any other changes that need to be made.
Second.
Okay. Reasoner, second by Scales. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, on to, I have to flip back here. Superintendent's report.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, we have, actually, I'm really excited to introduce this person. I introduced her last month. Ella is here, and I told her that I would include her report as part of my report. But starting next month, she's gonna be right before me on the agenda. She's gonna have her own report spot, and she's gonna be giving that formally. I know that she did meet with Principal Dockdorf and did visit with him a little bit today, and she's got a few items that she wants to share, and I'm just gonna give the floor to her. Okay?
So I have one thing to hand out. After listening to the work session last week, I conducted a survey about Zoom meetings
Nice.
among high school students, just to get some alternate opinions.
Thank you. Did you put these pie charts together?
Yeah.
Nice job.
So I got just under 400 responses, which I was impressed with.
That's pretty impressive, high schoolers.
And the general consensus was that if you are using Zoom meetings for the purpose of attendance only, they are not as effective as if you're using them for lesson purposes. And there might be alternate ways to conduct attendance. And then on the back, I did include a few student testimonials. And if you guys are interested, I can share all of them with you. It's a lot, and of course, they are high school students, so some of them just put like a period just to fill out the blank. But a lot of people were very passionate about this topic because they feel like it is detracting from their in-person learning time. And I know I did talk to Mr. Dockendorf about this today, and I do believe that conditions have improved and students are becoming more familiar with what to look for in their daily routine at school. So I do think it is getting better, but at the time of the last work session, it was a little bit of a disaster. So I'll take any questions if you guys have any.
The pie chart that said Zoom meetings are beneficial to learning, 7% said yes,
Yeah.
and then 52 said somewhat.
But like what is that? It's
40%
like
said
90% say no, basically. No, or some
Well,
means
some,
have
but-
beneficial.
I think part of it, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what I was hearing from like staff and students, was that it might not just be about sitting on the Zoom. It might be how the Zoom is interfering with their time in class.
Right.
So like you have 2 hours with a teacher every single week. Now, those teachers are taking, so 20 minutes or whatever a day, right? So 40 minutes of those 2 hours to go in Zoom with the kids that are gone. So essentially, there's an option. The teachers can focus for 2 hours every day with that set of A or B kids, or they can focus, a fraction of the time because they have to leave to go do a Zoom. And so that's what I was hearing, and I don't know if that's what your message was too, but what I was hearing is they like to really be able to focus with those kids so they have them in front of them and not walk away for a Zoom. And I was hearing that from kids too, and parents.
Yeah,
So-
I definitely agree with that. My personal opinion is that teachers should be capitalizing on the time that they have face-to-face with those students rather than taking 10 to 15 minutes to just take attendance for the kids who are at home.
Right, but Amber, when we talked about the whole team model, he was doing it concurrently.
Right.
So
And that's if it works for everybody. It doesn't work for everybody, unfortunately. I mean, I agree with you. If that works, that's a great way to do it. But a lot of teachers are saying that doesn't work for them. And so then we have the teachers that feel like they have to Zoom anyways. And so they have the class, they're like, okay, you guys do this work, I'm gonna check in with this class. But that means that it's 20 minutes that they're not able to be hands-on with those students in their class working with them. Because for whatever reason, you know, that class structure, it just doesn't work.
Why would it take 20 minutes to?
Well,
Well,
kids don't always
25
check in
people?
right away at
Just
times.
look at them, make sure they log in under their name, count them through, it should not take 20 minutes.
If you're only doing attendance, but really it's like, do you have a question? Or a kid, you get on a Zoom and a kid has a question, what are you gonna do? Say, oh, sorry, I'm only here for attendance, see you later. I mean, you really can't. So then you get stuck on a Zoom call. I mean, I'm just saying, that's the structure. That's what I was hearing. And I could be wrong. I don't teach in the schools.
And I think the emphasis that I guess I'd like to bring forward is actually, I have not talked to Elle about this. She did send me this information. I did have the graphs and I looked at that. I was curious about what she was going to say. But the last comment she said is that it has gotten better.
Yeah.
And students and teachers seem to be figuring a groove a little bit, and they're finding their way. Is that an accurate?
Yes, but I will say a few of my Zooms that have been just for attendance purposes have taken 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And that is a little bit concerning to me. 'Cause
So,
they
but doesn't
see
you have your name up on the screen?
Right, but then they wait and see if kids are coming in late, they tell people
Oh,
what's already on the
then, I'm
class board.
sorry, it's just like when you come in your classroom, you're either there or you're not.
Right,
Right?
and I
So-
do agree with that, but that's not the way it's being.
Yeah.
So,
That's the way it should be.
so Ella, just to clarify, because you just made a comment that was
Then
interesting.
you get on early.
So you said that
Got my butt chewed
for
up when I
some of
went
my
to meetings
Zooms, it's
sometime.
only to take attendance.
Yes,
So the Zoom meeting isn't for instructional purposes,
Right.
it's just for attendance. Is that what
that
you?
is how some of my classes are. Other classes, you're there the whole time.
I mean, some classes they can't. I mean, like a tech ed, it's impossible to be on a Zoom and try to be safe. You know what I mean? So there's just some classes where it doesn't work. And that's why I think like the Zoom for attendance, it defeats the purpose of what like even you guys were talking about doing. It's really supposed to be for the learning aspect, right? Or the teaching aspect. And so I think there's other ways to do attendance, but, I could be wrong, but Dan, I think what you were leading to, and I agreed with it, is that if you can teach on Zoom, it's very effective. But getting on a Zoom and taking away from the class in front of you, time in front of you with those kids just to do attendance seems.
So it seems interesting, so, like, tonight I had a conference with one of the teachers, and the teacher made it clear that with Otis, if the student is working on something, they can see that they opened it, they can see that they did work on it, and how long they worked on it. So to me, that's attendance without having to take attendance.
Yeah.
So why would we be using a Zoom call to list everybody off if the system is already telling us if the students are engaged?
They use Otis on every class.
But if you
And they
want
use
them
o-
to follow a schedule, how do you know that they're logging in at that time?
Well, so let's think about that for a second. If we're using the Zoom calls for instructional time, okay?
Right.
So the idea was every period, they're using the Zoom call for instructional time. The teacher should be able to look at Otis to see if every student in their class engaged in the assignment in Otis. That's attendance, right?
But that's a gray area then.
But,
Why is that a gray area?
you know, I think we're gonna go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, I
here.
think
this is
like if
We're
we
gonna have our one-day meeting all over again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I do think it's good information, and I think that the purpose was to have Zoom be an instructional type tool, not an attendance tool. That doesn't, I didn't see any of that was never in the plan anywhere, to say, we're just gonna have them Zoom in for attendance and then we'll teach them some other way.
Right.
So we have to let the administration continue to work with the program to say, if the program's changed, where we're not using Zoom for education, then they should tell us.
Right. But the original plan didn't
Doesn't
say
include
that every
Zooms.
class had to Zoom. It said Zoom was one of the options
Right.
for
But it
your
also, the
classroom.
original plan said they're gonna follow their normal classroom schedule.
Right.
Right.
But it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be on a Zoom
Right,
at
that,
that
Zoom's a
time.
tool,
Right.
right?
Right.
But it's a normal classroom schedule.
Right.
And you're right, we don't want to get into problem solving here, but
Right. So I can see what you're saying is if they're on Otis, would you need to take that Zoom call
Oh,
to?
but then you gotta know if Otis is back to like what they're talking about before, just because you're logged in, does it actually, like my wife's company, right? She's got a thing, and if you're not moving something, you go to idle, which is at, yeah.
Right.
But
And it
you can
does, the
see if a
teacher
kid
explained,
is-
she explained that to us,
Does it
that
do
she
that?
can see if it
it's
was just
progressing.
open or if they were actually doing something. Does that make sense, John?
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was told too.
Right, so,
I mean, I think it just goes back to trusting our teachers and administrators to do what needs to be done so that this works out
right.
however it needs to, however it needs to work out.
Just good
We
information.
laid down,
And then, yeah, let, move
yeah,
it
we
on
have a
to the
plan.
admin to make sure, yeah, we're not just doing the minimal stuff, right?
John was gonna say something, sorry, I think I interrupted.
No worries, I was just saying we can see it two ways. We can see through Otis, we can see through Go Guardian, so two different ways to
Okay.
see how much engagement has been done.
Oh, well, there you go.
Go Guardian, that's really nice.
But yeah, you shouldn't be on a call for 15 minutes taking attendance. That's ludicrous. Yeah, that's just taken away from,
I was just gonna say,
instructional
that's a
time.
lot of instructional time gone.
I had a meeting today with 40 people on, raise your hand if you're here, yep, done.
Yeah.
Took 10 seconds. Okay, 37 people are here, 3 people are absent, let's go.
Mm-hmm. But you were there on time, right?
Yeah.
So you should be doing.
It just doesn't
I'm
work
just saying.
at high school.
If you're not, you're not there, you're.
Yeah.
They're not teachers, is that what you're saying?
Well, they're not it's not,
Oh,
it's,
we
you're
have
adults.
That's sometimes
Oh,
worse.
that's even tougher.
Well,
That's true.
that's true.
I've been on with Nathan's football team, and they do every check-in is that, and when he was at home, and there was 40 people on these calls, and yeah, it's like, please mute your, for the
Oh,
love
yeah.
of God, please mute, But so, yeah, I get it, but.
I mute a lot of people on meetings. Third graders.
Thank you for doing this though. It's
Yes,
good to-
thank you.
It's very good to have student voice, so I think this was good.
In their underwear?
Yeah, this is really good, Ella. Nice job.
Yeah, thanks for doing that.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm gonna move on to the rest of my report. I wanna just talk about a couple things here. I had a great opportunity on Monday to meet with a group of teachers and under a meet and confer model. Now, I should have done this. So on the 19th at 5 o'clock, and there were a group of teacher leaders that met with myself, as well as some administrators, as well as Lynette and Tanya were able to join as well. And they used the meet and confer as an opportunity to kind of express concerns, as well as share kind of some working condition type situations. And I did send you all the minutes. You have that from the email that was sent. But just to kind of share some of the themes, the overarching themes was they did express some concerns regarding workload. And I think the biggest thing there is it's this feeling of overwhelmed. And just so you know, too, I did preface at some point in that meeting, I said, I think everyone in that room could feel those things. I think our entire, honestly, a large portion of our society is feeling overwhelmed with some of the changes we're having to deal with too. So it was universal. I don't want to downplay or water down their concerns, because obviously they did express some concerns regarding the overwhelmed, and a lot of that has to do with planning and some of the hybrid learning in regards to the different models. It's something new. It's definitely a change, and it's hard. It's really hard. It's really a challenge. So they're working through that. They also did express some suggestions around communication in regards to consistency between districts or between buildings. And the other thing I suggested to them was send me topics, because I could do a video if there's on different things. And so I mean, I'm willing to kind of help with some of those communications. Also talked about professional work week, having to do with if a meeting has to go a few minutes longer, no one should be leaving early. As a professional, you should see the meeting through, and working with our employees as professionals. And we had a brief discussion on that. Kelly Jurek and myself are going to continue conversations around that and potentially take a look at an MOU if need be. Also talked about PD week. We have some required trainings through our Safe School training. That has to do everything with bloodborne pathogens, as well as right to know and a lot of those type of trainings. They suggested that we offer more time for that. Did express the concern around staff morale with the overwhelmed feeling, and that there's that concern, as well as they had hoped for to maybe start to see, and this has to do with COVID too. There used to be times where vendors would come in during lunch and offer suggestions to them for whether it be their 403B or those type of things, and during lunch, teachers are able to access those individuals during that free time. So they did offer some of that as suggestions as well. From the district perspective, we did talk briefly about having teachers sub with our multiple tiers, there is chunks of time at the beginning of the day or the end of the day to where if you are a middle school teacher, you could sub at Liberty or the high school for the first hour of the day and still make it back to your, your work, your regular schedule. On the opposite side, at the end of the day, and normally that sounds like, well, why would you do that? Well, I was a beginning teacher once, and I would have jumped at the chance for some additional pay and some additional opportunity for that. So we did offer that. We are kind of turning over every stone and looking for subs. That's the moral of the story. So we did talk about that, and we're trying to obtain a list for that. We will be meeting on a consistent basis. I know statutorily we're supposed to meet 4 times a year, so we will make sure we do that, but also as needed. So I guess I asked Tanya and Lynette if there's anything else you want to add from what you heard at that meeting.
Hope that wraps it up.
Okay. Lynette?
I think that, they did express that, they wanted their Wednesdays,
Oh, yes.
to be, that seemed to be, prep seemed to be a huge thing. They just
Time.
don't have time.
Yep.
They just don't have the time, and that they were kind of sort of promised that Wednesday.
Yep. They were.
And it got taken away, and they feel like, then they go home and they do work, and then they work on Saturdays and Sundays, and and as Tanya said, she can attest to that, you're doing really double work, and what I saw out of it was, veteran teachers wanting to cry. They were like, this is, it always is hard for us to change. It's obviously easier for the little kids. Look at how well they do on their maths.
Exactly.
I can't get it off of Liam by the time we get home. But, it is a change, but imagine how much they don't get done with the kids because they're just drained.
What are you talking about the Wednesday thing?
So the Wednesday thing, their understanding was that on Wednesdays, it was meant to be a time for interventions, as well as time for like meetings and planning and preparation.
Okay.
And they are following their schedules and doing distance learning on those days instead of.
It kind of got
It wasn't
taken
our
away.
understanding that we're.
Yeah.
No,
like a
but that was
4-day
their,
work week.
that was their understanding, that was their understanding when they did their
Right.
PD this summer.
Yeah.
That was never under our understanding. because
Correct.
We wanted the kids in school 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Right. So again, it comes down to the resource of time. Remember the grid that I showed about if you don't have the resource, this one? If you don't have the resource of time, change is difficult. So part of that is that also it is change, and it's hard, and it's different. And I think we're all experiencing that, and unfortunately, it's not like we have a choice in the matter in a lot of respects.
And they understood that.
They understood that, and they were and this was a very cordial, respectful conversation.
Oh,
It wasn't anything like
Yeah.
that, but in the same respects, I do think us offering on that 9th and 10th, I think that will help with some planning purposes, and I think that's kind of hopeful that will really kind of offer an opportunity to reset and move forward into the future. So that was Meet and Confer in a nutshell. So I've got a couple other items. I did want to mention the political candidate forum. Thank you to those that were there, that presented. Good job. I will say this, it takes a lot of courage to get in front, right?
Right.
Doesn't it? It does. And I think I really appreciate people volunteering and taking part at, not only at this table, but actually all those offices, because that does take a lot of courage. And you know what, though? It is what makes our community go, and it is how we function. So, as promised last month, I did bring forward some goals, and I have them in blue. I was just going to read them to you. I basically took what we talked about at that last study session, and I just want to just briefly go through this. We don't need to spend a lot of time under a SMART goal type situation. Goal number 1, by the end of 2021 school year, Biglake Schools will delineate the expectations and develop a comprehensive professional learning plan for data-informed instruction, assessment, and learning as a core competency in every classroom. What that, in a nutshell, means, we will make sure that data use is, not that it's not already, but embedded in what we do and will drive our decisions. And there'll be a plan to support that. And I listed underneath, and this is more for me, like what I plan to show as examples of this, are tangibles, measurables, and evidence. And this has to do with the student achievement piece, whereas I'm not sure I can guarantee we're going to increase by 2% or something. I can guarantee we're going to build an infrastructure where we use data to help influence our instruction. That's the piece that I'm going at with my goal. Goal number 2, by the end of 2021 school year, Biglake Schools will increase presence in communication outlets and develop a communications plan for ongoing, consistent communications with all stakeholders. And that's that communications goal. We've already started doing that with whether it's our social media presence, whether it's our videos, whether it's taking note and making change and staying flexible with that. But we also talked about a communications plan, Alan and I did, so that'll be a work in progress, so we'll kind of make it a plan moving forward. And then also goal number 3, by the end of 2021, Biglake Schools will identify, articulate, and communicate the district's organizational structure, position responsibilities, and evaluation systems for all employees that make up the district. And again, this was those organizational charts. This has to do with kind of making sure we understand starting at chain of command, as well as kind of flow of the organization overall. So those are my goals, and if it's okay with everybody, I'll move forward assuming that that's my game plan for the school year.
It's great.
Do you want to have
more at this point.
do you want to have an intermittent mid-year goal? Or do you want to have everything tied to the end of the year? Just throwing that out as a feeler.
I'm not sure how the structure was here. I don't really,
Because we're at the end of the
You
year.
have progress goal, I mean, you can have a progress review, but you wouldn't necessarily.
I'm just
have
asking.
multiple.
I take your lead on that, whatever I'm comfortable.
I mean, he can update us as things
Yeah,
are going, but
I just want to set them up to succeed is what I'm trying to say.
Yep, well, thank you.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing, but I don't want you to wait to the end and say, oops.
Right. No, and
That's
I,
all.
think he's gonna do that.
nope,
think
I am
no,
not.
don't think so. Check in
I am not.
anytime you need to, or ask for support, or
Right,
feedback, but
exactly. So
Okay, so you're good?
I'm good. I'm good if the board is good. So here's, just so you know, I will work closely with the board chair, and then when it's time, I'll update the board accordingly. Does that sound okay?
yeah.
All right. Last but absolutely not least on my report for this evening, I have my from around the district, and there is no yawning. Because this is the important piece. I just saw someone yawn. I'm not going to say who it was. So here's where we go. Because this is good stuff. This is good stuff. So again, I just want to take this opportunity to acknowledge all the groups and those types of things. So I'm going to list a few things. From the high school, I know Angie Folch was up here earlier, and she has been working on attendance. But I need to kind of circle back to that whole testing thing. It was kind of a debacle with the makeups and everything. That's a big undertaking. So I'm just acknowledging Angie Folch for all the hard work that she did around that ACT this past week or past month. So really appreciate that, and that flexibility with that schedule and that calendar really worked well. At Liberty, I also want to take an opportunity to acknowledge some of the specialists, because they have been finding some flexible ways to teach their kids, these specialists, while having fun and getting in some really good activity while learning new skills. And here are the people I want to mention and acknowledge as from around the district: Andy Noble, Tanner Krutzig, Gwen Toppy, Becky Hoover, Adam Tolke, and Kim Nygaard. They're finding creative ways to get to those kids, so I just want to acknowledge those as individuals. At Indy, and actually at the middle school, they did stress the importance and wanted to acknowledge our online teachers, and in particular at the middle school, Nathan Hamren, Melody Miller, Kelly Jurek, and Paula Brady. Edgenuity is a new platform, working really hard to figure that out, and they've been working really hard, and it's been going really well. And last but absolutely not least, this one's kind of overarching, but I do want to take an opportunity to thank and acknowledge TJ and Brandon Hickman for getting the internet out to the press box and the green spaces or white spaces, and because that's helpful for streaming, as well as Larry Schritter. Thanks, sorry, Larry, for his work on the camera system, making sure that we have the coverage we need and willingness to do whatever it takes to make it happen. So, with that being said, that concludes my report. If there are questions, I would take them now at this point.
We didn't have internet out at the.
We did, but it was really, really bad.
Wow.
so you probably couldn't
Really
stream.
Fast now, so.
Sweet.
If you watch
Good.
Corey's live stream, they were running in 4K, so.
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
Nice, that's awesome.
This was free. Just saying. Anyway.
Okay.
Kids they had to go to whatever school to watch our football game.
Yeah.
Any other questions or concerns? Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So, second?
By Edstrom, second by Scales. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?